Let's go live button. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we're doing a little bit of an audio check. So let me know how the audio is out there because we are swapping system maroos here today because we've got a very special guest. Our friend Garrett Ziegler is joining us on the day. And so we want to make sure you can hear me, and we'll have to do another quick audio check when Garrett joins us. We're always making sure the tubes are connecting themselves appropriately, and it looks like things are alive. And so we are excited, man. We've got a lot to get to today. It looks like the tubes are working. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Hunter. Hunter Biden is in the house, and man, he's got 9 criminal charges in a 56-count indictment that we are going to go through, and we're going to do it with the help of Garrett Ziegler, who is the author. You may know this book. We've talked about it a lot. The Report on the Biden Laptop. And so he is going to be joining us at some point on the program today. And we're going to get into a bunch of different stuff. Predominantly, we're going to talk about the indictment that is out there because the indictment is now out. It's 56 pages. It's out of California. And we're going to go through it in detail. Mr. Ziegler, as you know, has a lot of inside scoop. This thing's 56 pages, but his summary is a lot longer than that. So we're going to ask ourselves, what is missing, what's included, and what is not. We're also going to see what kind of the skeleton surrounding this case looks like. We'll take a quick look at the docket. This is out of the Central District of California, and the judge who is going to be presiding over the case is a Trump appointee. Trump appointee is going to be actually presiding over this, and his name is Mark Scarsi. And so we're going to go through that. We're also going to see what Abe Lowell had to say in response to this. Abe Lowell, we know him as Hunter Biden's lawyer. He posted a statement here. We've also got a couple clips from Hunter. He showed up on an actual interview on an actual podcast out there on the Twitterverse, and he was explaining why he thinks this entire indictment and all of this is really just a big attack by the Republicans, and he's trying to play the victim now. And so we'll see what that looks like. We may see if Garrett has time to get into that or what we get into. But we've also got Biden was walking across the White House lawn, avoiding the question. The Oversight Committee is very excited about this, kind of a big see, I told you so. And the IRS whistleblowers also had a statement as well. So a lot of people are just kind of saying, see, we told you, we've been waiting for this to come. And here it is. But of course, the question is there more to come? There's a lot of criminality here in the Biden crime family. And so we're going to get into all of this and more, my friends. And then we're going to jump into our after party. If you want to join us for our after party, you know where to go there. It's watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And so I think without any further ado, the man of the hour is here. If we're good to go, we will bring him on aboard. And Mr. Garrett Ziegler is in the house, my friends. And so, Garrett, welcome aboard. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You sound great, my friend. It's very good to see you here today.
Thank you very much. And I am completely prepped. Got all 56 right here. I've read through it twice. I'm very excited to be talking with you. I have read all the statements that you just alluded to. So like they do at the beginning of depositions, I am ready to go. There's some meat on the bones here, but it's of a scrawny guy. So there's meat there, but not as much as there could be.
Well, that was my initial thought on this thing, because just to give the audience a little bit of background here, we've had several conversations before here on this channel, but for people who may not know you, right, you are Garrett Ziegler. You're one of the founders, creators, Marco Polo, and you were the author of this book. It's the Report on the Biden Laptop. Yep, you've got a copy.
My mother has sent me a screenshot of your show, and she circled the report on your bookshelf right behind your right ear.
Tucked up right there. Yeah, and it's a masterpiece. And remind me, how many pages is in this thing?
644. It was a team effort. We created Marco Polo as a nonprofit private investigative group. We have private investigators on our board, and they're involved in every facet of the research. And so we're not a political entity. We are not interested in putting something out that is not completely baked, and that causes us to be like the fourth or fifth time you hear about something, but we hope that it's the most granular. And like you said, this is my fourth time on your program, and I love it deeply. And there are so many things in this report that can corroborate the indictment. In fact, when I've been traveling, but when I catch my breath, we're going to create a Twitter thread that links the exact email on our site from BidenLaptopEmails.com that is referenced in the indictment. So never before, I think, in American history can you read an indictment and they'll quote emails in many indictments, right? Tax fraud, wire fraud, drug dealing. But now the people will be able to see the exact email metadata referenced in the indictment. I love it.
Yeah, and there's a lot in this report that you've drafted, and just for anybody who wants to get a copy of it, they can go to marcopolousa.org, get a copy there so they can follow along with anything you're saying. I mean, it's one of the most sourced compendiums that I've ever seen. It's very, very impressive work. And so the thing that we noticed, right, is this is a 56 pager. Yours is 600 plus pages. So there's a lot there that is not here in the indictment. But my thought is we just jump into the indictment and kind of
and
start
I will speak only if my value add is material. So there might be 2 pages that I don't speak, and one time I want to dive into something. So pretend like you don't have a guest, and when I have something of value, I'll jump in.
Well, let's do it. And my thought was we try to get to at least through the first 15, 16 pages on it, because that's really where the meat and potato is before we jump into the actual the counts and the charges. But there is a lot here, and I think this is probably a good setup so that the audience can read and follow along with us. But my friends, this is the case. This is another Hunter Biden indictment, and just for a little context, this is not out of Delaware. Okay, on this channel, we've been following the Delaware case, and we have really had some serious criticisms about Hunter Biden and his defense team, and really why they should have taken the deal a long time ago. There was this, in my opinion, a rigged plea deal that was proffered forward. They were in court. The whole thing was kind of set up to go. The judge in Delaware, Judge Norica, asked a couple of questions, made the whole thing derailed when Hunter didn't answer it appropriately. And now we're facing a whole new slew of charges. And so the summary here is we've got 9 new charges. We've got 6 misdemeanors and 3 additional felonies in an entirely different district. And this comes on the back of Hunter's lawyer, Abby Lowell, basically getting very aggressive with the DOJ, threatening them that we're going to go subpoena Trump and we're going to go subpoena Bill Barr and we're going to go, after all these people. And they were calling the DOJ corrupt. And Hunter was the victim of this selective prosecution, even though his daddy runs the DOJ, runs the executive branch through Merrick Garland and this entire entity. So they started to get very aggressive with the DOJ, and we read through David Weiss's, who I've got really, don't speak in high regard of the guy because of how rigged it was at the outset. But now he's been kind of backed into a corner, and he responded saying, your indictment, your request for subpoenas are absolutely ridiculous. And it was a little bit of a surprise to me to wake up to this new indictment. I actually wasn't expecting it this quickly. I thought that maybe we'd see some escalation elsewhere. So any comments on that before we jump in?
Number one, I think that a lot of credit needs to be given to the IRS whistleblowers. The press release announcing the first plea deal attempt was June 20th. And the Congress, specifically the Ways and Means Committee, voted to release the transcript of Gary Shapley on June 7th. And so what we've had here is people trying to save face. So this is, like you said, obviously a step up from an aborted plea deal. There are some meat on the bones, and not every indictment is 56 pages. They put material in here that did not need to be in this indictment. It's all true. But the breakdown, for example, of the pimps and hookers and all the things he tried to write off on their taxes, you can have a bare bones 5-page indictment. You don't have to go into the evidence. The grand jury's heard the evidence. The evidence is only in need for a trial for you to convince another jury of one's peers. So they put in this a lot of things that are going to make the Bidens uncomfortable. Kevin Morris is smoking on his bong today. They're not feeling well.
No, they're not.
This is embarrassing for them. And I have the privilege, and Marco Polo has the privilege of being sued by both the people we're talking about right now. The president's son, that's my fault. Can you hear that?
Yeah, you're. No, you sound good. Yeah.
There was a background noise from Telegram. So the president's son is suing us in the Central District of California, the very district that you're talking about here. And Kevin Morris, the guy who comes up in this indictment, known as a personal friend, he's not only a personal friend. That was a mistake on the prosecutor's part. But Kevin Morris is suing us in state court. And since I spoke with you last, we won one cause of action. Kevin Morris owes us legal fees on approximately $45,000. And we're appealing in California State Court the other 4 causes of action that Judge Richard Epstein should have granted immediately. So let's dive in. The 2 gentlemen who we're going to be reading their writing is Leo Weiss and Derek Hines. They go by a lot of nicknames. They're both 6'5". They're both looked at as G-men type of straight-laced guys. Leo Weiss worked at the Congressional Ethics Office for a while. But these guys are also lackeys of Rod Rosenstein. And so they're the ones who wrote this. And like I've said before, it's a limited hangout, but it's much less of a limited hangout. What I mean by that is they want to be able to hold this up and say, hey, look, nobody's above the law in the United States. And one more thing I'll say before we dive in is Abbe Lowell made a statement today, Robert, that said if it weren't for his last name, Hunter Biden wouldn't have been charged with this. Hilariously, I agree. If Hunter Biden were Hunter Smith, he'd be charged with more and different crimes like money laundering, FARA violations, and sex trafficking. So this is a start, but we're not holding our breath.
Yeah, this was the statement, I believe. Let me see if I can share that one. Yeah, here this. Let's see if I can get that situated there. Yeah, this was Abbe Lowell's statement, and I think it's a little hard to read it, but yeah, based on the facts and the law, if Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, the charges in Delaware, now in California, would not have been brought. And there's the rest of his statement. We can come back to that. But just to go back to the point that you were making, and it was on this, this issue that there's a little bit more here that maybe meets the eye. Obviously, the case is United States of America versus Robert Hunter Biden. The indictment's coming out of the Central District of California. And it says here, just in the introduction, that defendant Robert Hunter Biden was a Georgetown and a Yale educated lawyer. And then the next word, right, which we all knew, and it's like, well, okay, well, he kind of botched this case with all of those Ivy Leagues, but the next one that really stands out is the lobbyist, right? Because there's a lot of talk that maybe why wasn't he charged with FARA violations if he's lobbying on behalf of foreign entities like CEFC, and he wasn't charged with any of those types of crimes here, but maybe that's just like, hey, that's the next step for us.
Yeah, that's what justice requires. It would be the next step.
Yeah. So they say, okay, we know he's a lobbyist. He's a consultant. He's a business person. They say beginning in April 2018, and we're going to pay special attention to the dates here because of when Trump's in office, when Joe was leaving office under the Obama term, then when he came back in. So at the time, beginning April 2018, he's a resident of LA, saying at all times that we're about to talk about, Hunter served on the board of the Ukrainian industrial conglomerate and a Chinese private equity fund. He also negotiated, executed contracts, agreements for businesses, legal services, and was paid millions of dollars in compensation to him and his domestic corporations. Both of these we've talked a lot about, Owasco, the PC, and the LLC. Saying in addition to his business interests, Hunter was an employee of a multinational law firm also working in an of counsel capacity, which is this little trick that a lot of law firms will do when they want to loosely associate with somebody. You're not really an employee of the firm. You're kind of like a contract lawyer with the firm, but there's really loose, depending on the state, there's kind of loose agreements on how it all works. And so you can kind of say, I'm at the law firm if you're the of counsel attorney, but you're not technically there like an employee or a partner. And so it's just, in other words, you can kind of sell your name, right? You can lend your name.
Yes, and the value add that Marco Polo has, and what we're going to be doing on Twitter, but we'll do here first, is we will figure out and name each of these entities. So for us, for Marco Polo, multinational law firm is not specific enough. This is Boy Schiller Flexner. So what we're going to be doing is going through the document and writing down the names and then putting that in the document on our tweets. So this is Boy Schiller Flexner in point number 3.
Amazing. And where's the best place for people to follow you and support you? Obviously, you've got litigation going on. And so we just want to make sure people know that.
Thank you. All of our social media is Marco Polo 501c3, denoting our nonprofit status. And our legal defense fund, we've had $180,000 in legal fees just since May, Robert, is fightbiden.org. Can't make it more easier and easier to remember. So fightbiden.org and Marco Polo 501c3. Importantly, Boy Schiller Flexner paid Hunter approximately $215,000 per year. He didn't even maintain an office there. His job was to be a rainmaker. He just got Boy Schiller clients, made $215,000 a year to do basically nothing but talk on the phone.
Yeah, good work if you can get it. And the last name Biden is certainly something that helped, no doubt. So they continue. The government tells us that Hunter, he engaged in a 4-year scheme to not pay at least $1.4 million. And that was self-assessed. So he assessed that on himself. Federal taxes that he owed for the years 2016 through 2019. And just a quick point, I know we'll pick up the pace on this a little bit, but in terms of the dates, right? We also got to remember that there were a bunch of other potential charges that they never brought because the statute of limitations expired, and they all just literally expired, right? The law says that when there is evidence of a crime, the government knows about it. You got to bring the criminal charges within a certain period of time, or else evidence can expire, right? Even in DUI case, like you don't want to hold a blood vial for 25 years and then charge somebody because the blood can go bad. Evidence expires, witness memory expires, and so you have a certain time period. You also want to incentivize the government to actually bring the charges, not just dilly-dally. And so conveniently, many of these investigations with Hunter just took forever, just left on and on and on and on. And then some of the major charges actually dropped off. Okay, so carrying on. From in or about January 2017 through in or about August 15th, 2020, and to evade the assessment of taxes for another tax year, he also filed false returns in about February 2020. Now, in furtherance of this scheme, Hunter did a bunch of things. A, he subverted the payroll and the tax withholding process of his own company, which was a Wasco PC. He withdrew millions of dollars from the PC outside of the payroll and the tax withholding process, which was all in manuals or whatever they were doing, and it was bypassing it. He spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle, and we have summaries of that later on in the document, rather than paying his tax bills. In 2018, he stopped paying his outstanding overdue taxes for 2015 that he was due. He willfully failed to pay his taxes in the years 16, 17, 18, 19, all on time, even though he had the money to do it. And he also failed to file his 2017 and 18 tax returns on time. And when he did finally file his 2018 returns, he included false business deductions in order to evade the assessment of the taxes and to reduce the substantial tax liabilities that he faced coming up in February 2020. Carrying on, they say the defendant also made millions of dollars in the 4 years from 2016 to 2020. Now, I think this is also interesting because by allowing this to continue on and allowing those older cases to expire, they don't have to spend time on those years when he was in office, when Biden was actually the vice president. So it's convenient for them, but they carry on. They say between 2016 and October 15th, 2020, which would be all the Trump years, Hunter individually received more than $7 million in total gross income. Now, this included in excess of $1.5 million in 2016, $2.3 million in 2017, $2.1 million in 18, $1 million in 19, and $188,000 in 2020. So a major drop off there. In addition, from January through October 2020, Hunter also received $1.2 million in financial support to fund his extravagant lifestyle.
Now, this is where our plaintiffs comes in. Kevin Morris is going to come up very quickly, and he's going to be referred to as a personal friend. That is false. Why can we say that? Because he's not just a personal friend. Omitting material context, you can be charged in SEC crimes and other things by not just, not if you say something true, but it's incomplete, that statement can still be false. And by calling him only a personal friend, it's false. Kevin Morris worked with Hunter Biden's tax accountants to ease considerable pressure politically from Hunter Biden having these tax debts. So that financial support came from in the whistleblowers. I love them, but they did transpose his first and middle name. It's Patrick Kevin Morris. We know that. But Kevin goes by his middle name, as does Hunter.
Interesting. Okay, so we'll hear more from him, but he's funding 1.2 million bucks, right? And this is just kind of a guy, right? I mean, this is not.
Yep.
That is a lot of money.
Made all of his money from being the attorney for the South Park creators. And again, if Hunter were normal people, when they fall on tough times and the money dries up, you know, they rent a 2-bedroom in San Bernardino. No, not our princeling Hunter. Kevin Morris shelled out $20,000 a month for him to live on a canal in Venice just because he's a princeling. So Hunter exacerbated all of this. He has agency. Everybody treats him like a little baby with kids' gloves. He's a 53-year-old man.
I know. Yes, and he had a lot of money, and it all just went somewhere, right? And the question is, what was the justification for him to continue to get this money? What was he trading on? But here's one example that the government identifies for us, right? This is David Weiss and the Special Counsel's office. They take us over into Burisma. They say in or about April 2014, which is again is much further back than we were talking about previously. Hunter joined the board of Burisma, which was a Ukrainian industrial conglomerate. They say Burisma agreed to pay Hunter $1 million a year. That was in monthly disbursements. We talked about those numbers. There were 83 and a third.
A real quick addendum. The prosecutors made a mistake. They should have said Ukrainian-based. Burisma Holdings Limited was actually domiciled in Cyprus because it was easier to set up Maltese bank accounts to launder money.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a little bit of a technical detail.
That's what our report is for.
I know, man.
Ukrainian-based Cypriot-registered gas company. Joey says his son's done nothing wrong.
Yes, and if you take a look at this report, you can go take a look at the PDF at marcopolousa.org. You'll see what I'm talking about. There are footnotes. It is detailed as can be, and so it's very, very impressive work. Okay, so they are located really in Cyprus. It is Burisma, a Ukrainian-based company. They're paying Hunter $1 million a year. In March 2017, take a look at that date. Okay, so Joe Biden is now exiting. Burisma decides to reduce his compensation from $1 million a year to $500,000 a year, even though they kept him on the board until about April 2019. He's a lot less valuable when Daddy's not the president.
It'd be like Hunter president having a hooker when he was at Georgetown, and then he meets her 20 years later and says, "Hey, I really like you, but you're just not as good looking. I'll pay you half."
Right.
Goes down 50% when his daddy's not in office.
Right. The terms have changed. What are you going to do for us now? So that's very convenient. Now, as a result, he got a total of $1 million in 2016, $630,000 in 2017, $500,000 in 2018, and then $160,000 in 2019. So you see that dropping off. Pretty significantly, right? And I like how they also try to tier that down, so it kind of looks like it's a normal glide path exit or something. We all know what that's about.
Yep, and he gets off the board just real quick only days before Joey announces. Joey announces April 25th, 2019. We think he gets off the board the first week of April. So right like clockwork. Somebody's like, dude, this is a distraction. You've got to get off this board.
Yep, and they're just cleaning up the loose ends at the time. So they take us over to the Romanian contract. So they tell us now in the fall of 2015, Hunter, he entered into an oral agreement with a business associate one. And Rob Walker. Perfect. Thank you for that. So business associate one is Rob Walker. Hunter enters into a deal with Rob Walker purportedly to help a Romanian business person,
Gabriel Popoviciu,
GP, to contest bribery charges that he was facing in his home country. And that's Romania. And Rob Walker, who was he?
Former Clinton staffer. His wife, Betsy, was the personal aide to Dr. Jill Biden. Jill is a doctor unless you have a stroke, that is, and then you have to find an MD. But longtime crony, traveled Latin America with Bill Clinton, based out of Little Rock, total grifter, part-time owner of Meadow Biota. Can you believe it? So, yeah, this is somebody who got convicted on bribery charges, for giving preferential treatment to a Romanian lawmaker to get a good deal on commercial real estate in downtown Bucharest. So these are people that Robert and I, interface with all the time.
And this is somebody, so Rob
Yeah.
Walker, then he has kind of a reputation for helping people with these types of problems. So
yes, in his own words, he's the stand-in for Hunter. Rob Walker is there to create layers between the ultimate payer and the ultimate beneficiary. So a lot of the cash goes to Rob to make it harder for investigators, and it'd be hard if this crackhead didn't leave his laptop, for us to follow the money. So if it goes to Rob, that's another link in the chain that somebody has to connect.
Amazing. Okay, so he's kind of this liaison guy. They obviously bring in Hunter because of the name. Fall of 2015. So Joe's still in office, and we have, it reminds me of what we're hearing about with Menendez. Honestly, Menendez was doing a lot of this type of get somebody off in although he was calling U.S. attorneys in the United States, but it's the same type of pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So they say now he is trying to help GP, this Romanian business person, contest these bribery charges, and he was facing them in Romania. So GP, he paid an entity associated with Rob Walker through his Romanian business. Now, between November 2015 and May 2017, Rob Walker's entity then received approximately $3.1 million. It's a nice chunk of money from Romania, I would imagine.
Yes.
And it was split roughly into thirds between Hunter, Rob Walker, and business associate 2.
So we believe that this is James Gillier.
Okay.
The English-born bald guy who, in May of 2017, proposed an equity distribution whereby 10% was going to be held by H for the big guy.
Okay, that was him.
Yes. His daughter has deleted all of her social media as a result of Marco Polo.
Well, that's...
Didn't even talk about his daughter, although she did work for Hillary Clinton. So, yeah, James Gillier.
Curious. Okay, so we got the whole little entourage together. They're trying to work these deals out. That was just in Romania. Then they say under subsection 3, now we're going to jump over to China. CEFC, the China Energy Company. They tell us in late fall, also of 2015, Hunter, business associate 1, Rob Walker, and 2, which is Gilliar, same people, they begin to investigate potential infrastructure project with individuals associated with CEFC, which is a Chinese energy conglomerate. In or around December of that year, Hunter then met in Washington, D.C. So it's the fall to the December, then the individual and with individuals associated with CEFC. During the next 2 years, Hunter, Rob Walker, and Gilliar, presumably, continued to meet with the individuals associated with CEFC, including in February 2017 with the then chairman, hereinafter called chairman. And is that...
Ye Jianming. Hasn't been seen since March of 2018. The February 2017 meeting they allude to was in Miami, wherein Ye Jianming gave Hunter Biden an $80,000 diamond.
That's right. The diamond. Okay, so he's meeting with them, and this is taking place in Washington now.
That meeting occurred in Miami in February, but the December 15...
yes.
December 15 is in D.C., February 17 is in Miami. They have like a yacht show down there, and it's an excuse for everybody to get together.
Amazing. So then we fast forward, we're in March 1st, 2017, State Energy HK, which is a Hong Kong entity that's also associated with the Chinese CEFC. They paid $3 million to Rob Walker's entity for sourcing deals and for identifying other potential ventures. So a Hong Kong company that's connected with CEFC dumps another $3 million in. Hunter had an oral agreement with Rob Walker to receive 1/3 of those. So he's got $1 million coming his way from that deal. The defendant, Hunter, in turn, then directed a portion of those $1 million to go back over to what we think to be Gilliar. Now,
no.
Oh, that's someone else. That's 3.
Yeah, Gillier's business associate 2. We believe a business associate 3 is Jimmy Biden, Joey's brother.
Oh, okay. So, thanks for the catch.
It's absolutely nuts.
Thanks for the catch on that. So the family gets that, business associate 3. And now you can really see why they don't want to put the names of these people in these indictments, because that could
And
get a
that's
little
where we
bit
come in.
problematic.
We provide the clarity that pisses off all the right people. If we're not
This
pissing off people daily, our finger is not in the open wound enough.
You got it, my friend. And this is so good. So we're just adding some notes to this, and we'll save these red lines if you want to download
Oh,
these
please,
later.
please, please.
We'll just add the notes to them. And so here it says they continue. So now James Biden is getting a portion of Hunter Biden's deal. So he takes a cut and then he passes off a cut to James, the president's bro. After the state HK payment, Hunter, we've got Walker and then Gilliar. Then they begin negotiating a joint venture with individuals also associated with CEFC. They called this new entity Sinohawk. S-I-N-O, Hawk.
Yep, and
Oh,
I know the backstory from Tony Bobulinski about that. Sino obviously dealing with the Chinese, and then Hawk was Beau Biden's favorite animal. So they named it after their dead brother's favorite animal, the hawk. I know it's warped, but that's the truth.
nice. And then they're going to maneuver funds all over the place through it. That's nice. So
Over their dead brother.
over the dead brother. Nice, bro. So over the summer then of 2017, Hunter cut out his, what'd you call it? Sinohawk?
Sinohawk. Yep.
Sinohawk business partners, and separately negotiated a venture with individuals then associated with CEFC called Hudson West 3. So then he screws those people out of the deal and then works with someone else. On or
Because
about August.
this is where Bobulinski comes into play.
Okay.
And Bobulinski can be a hard ass, pardon my French, but
Yeah.
Hunter and him butted heads. And Hunter's like, well, I hold the ultimate hand here. He said this in WhatsApp messages. And that ultimate hand is Biden. So he's like, dude, he didn't tell Bobulinski this at the time, but he cut him out because he didn't want to deal with him. He didn't want scrutiny. He wanted to use that as his own piggy bank. And Bobulinski, although Bobulinski wanted to get in bed with the Chicoms, he at least wanted to build some bridges and some infrastructure projects. And Hunter just wanted the cash.
Yeah, and for those who recognize that name, Bobulinski, we talked about him way before in the 2020 election. He was the guy who kind of popped up there, I think in October, right?
Yes.
And he was revealing a lot of this. It was this simultaneous to the release of the Hunter laptop that the New York Post talked about. I mean, he got censored. Everybody just kind of ignored this whole thing until they could just squeeze Biden through.
So disgusting.
Continuing, they say on or about August 2nd, 2017, Hunter executed on behalf of his company called Owasco the operating agreement for Hudson West 3. HW3 was funded with an initial $5 million of capital from an entity that was not owned or controlled by Hunter. The contract further named Hunter as, quote, the manager of Hudson West and specified that he would receive, quote, compensation of $100,000 per month, and a one-time retainer fee of $500,000. Owasco paid no capital contribution for its ownership share of Hudson West 3. And was this the transaction we covered previously here? One of the emails, there was an email that I think the Oversight Committee just released recently about, I think $5 million that landed in some account. And they said there was a banker who was reading through it and he said, this is kind of a strange transaction. One
of Marco Polo's contributions is that we've identified the bank that sent that email. It's Cathay Bank, Cathay, headquartered in Los Angeles. They were founded right when the Chinese started immigrating en masse to Los Angeles. And quite frankly, they've been the most forthcoming of all the American banks. And this, again, you'll recall, took place 2 days after the WhatsApp shakedown with Hunter and Joey at Joey's house, where Hunter is WhatsApping Raymond Zhao and said, I am sitting here with my father. And if the chairman doesn't follow through, he said, I will assure you that between who I know and who the man sitting next to me knows, you will come to regret reneging. So this is 2 days after. So you got Joey involved in the shakedown. He knew what was going on. I mean, and he lies so effortlessly that people start to believe him. But Joey's involved in the shakedown. Days later, the $5 million comes in.
And then the money just gets.
Yep. And guess what? At this same time, Robert, and this is not in the indictment, although it should be related in a separate indictment, right after that payment comes through, Joey pays cash for the Rehoboth Beach house. So just keep those two
Okay.
things in mind. I don't have enough yet. I rely on paper, so I don't have enough yet, but the timing fits. Joey pays cash for the Rehoboth Beach House, $2 million.
So they form this new entity, Hudson West 3. They get it funded. There's capital contribution. Someone drops $5 million in there, and nobody really knows.
Ye
Oh,
Jinming does.
Ye
That's Ye's
Jinming.
money.
Okay. So
Ye
that's Ye
Ming.
from up.
Yes.
So then Hunter gets these nice terms. He's making $100,000 a month. That's more than Ukraine, than Burisma. And he also gets $500,000 to start. Now, shortly after the execution of the contract, on or about August 8th, 2017, Hudson West then transferred approximately $400,000 to Hunter's company called Owasco. Then, thereafter, Owasco received monthly transfers of approximately $165,000. In total, Hudson West made 7 transfers to Hunter's company, Owasco, in 2017, totaling $1.445 million. Hunter then transferred $555,000 of those funds from Owasco from their Wells Fargo account to Business Associate 3, which
Jimmy
was
Biden.
Jimmy Biden,
The president's lookalike and younger brother, Jimmy. Uncle Jimmy, as they know him, the fixer.
Amazing. So he gets $500,000. Then in 2018,
For nothing. For nothing. They had one aborted deal down in Louisiana involving an island called involving a piece of land where they're going to build an LNG terminal for the Chi-Com's benefit called Monkey Island. Other than that, they did nothing.
And that's the end of the line, really, for that money, right? I mean, that's not another business that they're sending it to. That's like James Biden. That's his spending money. That's the job well done. Well done. They say in 2018, Hudson West 3 made another 15 transfers to Owasco. That was $2.1 million. And then Hunter transferred approximately $844,000 of those funds back over to James Biden as well. Man. So we're now over $1 million here just from those couple transfers. We jump into a next section. Now, this word is Scaniatalis.
Skinny Atlas. I botched it for a year. Don't feel bad at all. Both Owasco and Skinny Atlas are two of the Finger Lakes. Everybody knows Hunter's tiger claw-like tattoo on the back on his back. Those are the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, where his deceased mother Nelia is from. So he names his shell companies after the Finger Lakes.
Okay, so
Skinny Atlas. So you know the atlas that your mom or your grandma has in her glove box. Think of the word like skinny, SKINNY, Skinny Atlas.
Skinny Atlas. I'll try it. All right. So section 4 is Skinny Atlas. Says on or about September 21st, 2017, Hunter then received a transfer of another $666,000, so 2/3 of a mil, from Skinny Atlas, which was a partnership owned by 75% by Hunter and another 25% by Business Associate 4.
Eric Schwerin.
Eric Schwerin, and we've seen him a lot. Wasn't he? His background was kind of the manager for the Biden family.
He was the organizer. Eric Schwerin was a University of Pennsylvania educated, high-paid babysitter. He was to set up all of the corporate documents, set up the meetings, make sure Hunter went to his AAA meetings. He was a high-paid babysitter for the Biden family. Eric Schwerin, the personal financial advisor and consultant to the U.S. Vice President at the time, shared bank accounts with both Hunter and Joe Biden, paid bills for Joe Biden from their shared bank account, which was capitalized in part by foreign oligarchs.
And that's interesting that he would presumably know Hunter quite well and be familiar with his proclivities. And it's interesting that he would want to form a company with him with, an ownership share of that.
His dad is in bed with the Chi-Coms, been to China since the turn of the century. Eric Schwerin, though, doesn't have the vices Hunter has. He's a very sober person. All of his emails are impeccably written, but he's corrupt. And he knew what was happening, but he's made out to be a scapegoat in the indictment. Eric Schwerin should be pleased with this indictment because it looks at him as if he's just looking out for his friend, and his friend was the wayward one. Where Schwerin's hands aren't clean either. They're all in bed with each other.
Yeah. So Hunter and Schwerin, they had a variety of business meetings, business interests, and investments. So then we have another entity, and this is Global.
Eudora Global is the name of it. named after the ship that Cecil Rhodes rode on, Eudora, Eudora.
Eudora
Global.
Eudora Global was a venture capital firm founded and operated by a, quote, trial attorney.
Jeff Cooper.
That's interesting they put that in quotes.
I know. Jeff, because he's really a plaintiff's attorney. He got a lot of money from the asbestos litigation gravy train, and he befriended Beau Biden in Delaware because Joey was blocking asbestos litigation reform in the Senate. He lives 40 minutes away from me in Illinois, in Edwardsville, Illinois. Jeff Cooper.
Okay, so Cooper, the so-called trial attorney, he is operating this new venture called Eudora Global. Then Hunter and Schwerin, they received equity in that entity called Global in exchange for introducing this trial attorney to their contacts in China and India. Then on or about March 21st, 2019, Hunter then gets a distribution from about $619,000 from Global via Skinny Atlas.
Perfect.
Now, financial support from the personal friend, and presumably this is the Kevin Morris character you told us about.
This is Kevin Morris.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. I'll tell you when I have doubts. Because I do have doubts on some identities in this, but so far it's rock solid, to the point where I'd bet my life on it. So Kevin Morris is this one.
So from January through October 15, 2020, an entertainment lawyer, hereinafter called a personal friend, provided the defendant, Hunter, with substantial financial support, including approximately $200,000 to rent a lavish house on a canal in Venice, California, $11,000 in payments for his Porsche, and other individual items. In total, Hunter had his personal friend, Morris, pay over $1.2 million to third parties for Hunter's benefits over the months of January through October 2020. That is a heck of a personal friend, man.
Personal friend he met at a campaign event for his daddy.
Amazing.
In fall of 2019. It's disgusting.
Amazing. So we have the next section talks about Beautiful Things, which was Hunter's memoir. They tell us in 2019, Hunter began writing a nonfiction memoir where he described his substance abuse and his addiction issues that was ultimately titled Beautiful Things. On November 25th, 2019, Hunter then signed a contract with the publishing house. From January through October 2020, Hunter also received approximately $140,000 paid into his wife's bank account that was related to the book.
Melissa Cohen.
And that's curious why it would be into her account.
I know, and why they would name that in the indictment.
Yeah, that is interesting why that is a little fact and tidbit they included there, saying that, maybe we know what else is in the bank account, right? Is kind of where I would go with that. Now, they say Hunter had a legal obligation to file and pay his taxes. And so a lot of this, I think, is kind of boilerplate stuff. We'll just hit the highlights. But it says the U.S. income tax system imposes on individuals the need to pay tax. We all know that, unfortunately. The U.S. system allows reduction of taxable income for both businesses and non-businesses. You have to do self-assessments. That means taxpayers must tell the government what they think they owe. The system is also pay-as-you-go, meaning that taxes must either be withheld from wages or paid over the year, and you got to come up with an estimate and so on. The U.S. system relies on the honesty and the integrity of individual taxpayers, which was asking a lot in this case. And while the IRS, and while it audits some things, it can only do that to a tiny fraction of people. We know taxes are due on April 15th. You got to make a due date. You can postpone those to October and get extensions and so on. You got to file a Form 1040 and you got to tell us what's in there. If you have a Form 1120, it works this way. And they say here in conclusion, okay, we all know all that. They tell us that here, Owasco, of which Hunter was the 100% owner, was a C corporation that had to file a U.S. corporate income tax return, the Form 1120, and had to pay taxes. And Hunter had a legal obligation to pay his taxes on all his income, including income earned in Ukraine and from his service on Burisma's board, fees generated by deal making with the Chinese private equity fund, as well as income derived from his work as a lawyer and other sources.
That Chinese private equity fund has not been named yet in this program. It's BHR.
BHR. And is that Bohai something?
Harvest Rosemont. That's the full name.
That's right.
Bohai Harvest Rosemont. And tons of information about that. We could go into a new show on that. But Kevin Morris now owns that 10% share. He gave it to his sugar brother. So it's only plausible to ask if Kevin Morris is giving him liquid cash now, Hunter gave him the 10% share for undervaluation.
Yeah. Yeah, we know other people who've been prosecuted for allegedly doing that around the country as well.
Yes.
So that next section is telling us. So we know Hunter's got all these, a lot of different entities, money's being transacted around. We got James Biden's in the list. We got Eric Sherwin. We got Rob Walker, a bunch of different people named here. And they tell us that now that Hunter owed substantial individual income taxes in the years. We got 16, 17, 18, and 19. They tell us the following is a summary of the self-assessed taxes that Hunter reported that he owed and that he failed to timely pay. So it's not even the government saying that you owe this. It's Hunter acknowledging, I owe you this, and I'm not paying it, or I have not paid it. So you see here are the numbers. Gross total income, we'll just hit the highlights. Self-assessed tax due at the time of filing. So in 2016, he said I owed $45K. 17, he said he owed $581K. In 18, that went up to $620,000. And then in 2019, he owed $197,000. So that's a nice chunk of taxes. Now, they say that Hunter knew that he had to file and pay these taxes. And because of his varied income streams and to facilitate the withholding of the payments and the taxes due to the IRS, Hunter formed Owasco, which was a C corporation, in about 2006.
With now, Eric Schwerin as the registered agent.
Okay, so ES was there. And totally. Yeah, because he's kind of the...
he's the babysitter.
Right.
He comes in and says, they don't say this, but basically the situation is we have an F-up son who needs to bring in some cash because he's a bag man. You play the role of businessman in this. Set up the companies, do whatever. That's Eric Schwerin.
Now, they say that Owasco, the PC, the corporation's role, the sole purpose was to ensure that there was sufficient holdings from all the streams of Hunter's income to pay his taxes. Like, they created this for that reason. Now, instead of receiving income directly into his personal bank account, that Hunter then directed the third parties to pay Owasco, which had its own bank account and any income owed to him. Owasco then used a payroll service to pay Hunter a salary out of the income that went there, and the payroll service made tax withholdings on behalf of Hunter, which it paid to the IRS, and then Hunter also made quarterly payments and payments with extensions to the IRS, all in anticipation of when Hunter filed his individual tax return. So he's kind of, maneuvering things around, delaying stuff, and making quarterly payments. Some payments are being made, it sounds like.
And that payroll service, just for specificity's sake, is ADP. It's the most common one. ADP, based out of New Jersey.
Okay, and so they're trying to comply with the rules. It's a big entity. They're, probably not doing anything fancy for him. He's just diverting funds away from them.
Yeah.
Now, because Hunter's income varied from year to year, Hunter, in consultation with his Washington, D.C. based accountant, hereafter called the D.C. accountant.
That firm is called Morgan Wingate.
Okay. And then business associate 4, which was Jimmy. Biden, right? James Biden, periodically adjusted his tax withholdings to ensure that he did not generate additional tax liabilities. And so so they're saying he consulted with the accountant, and then he's also emailing the brother, like James Biden, right? He's saying, hey, what does this count as? How do I adjust this?
Jimmy should be indicted.
Yeah, Jimmy is basically in a conspiracy with him to evade taxes, as you can see. And they know that. Like, that's his name right there.
Him.
Amazing. So they've got those emails, and that's the president's bro and the president's son. All right. So Hunter and the president's bro, James, also created a standalone bank account that they referred to as a tax account. So they read a book somewhere said, set up a tax account somewhere so you can't touch it. All right. Just put your money in there.
They literally have the impulse control of a golden retriever dog. A golden retriever dog. You have an impulse control of a golden retriever.
Yeah, so they're just trying to skim off. They read the book like Profit First or something. You got to set. Pay yourself first. And they went to like a Dave Ramsey seminar or something, and they cut the credit card up or the debit card on that account. So put all your money there. He says, okay, Hunter is going to deposit all of his funds to pay taxes on anything he owed beyond the withholding. So the company will withhold a specific amount, and then they'll have some funds to actually pay this stuff. Now, the arrangement meant that Hunter had to file an individual income tax return. And on IRS Form 1040, where he reported the income he earned from Owasco and other sources, and so that he could pay taxes on that income using the withholdings that Owasco had made and funds from that other separate tax account that they just established. Hunter also had to file a separate corporate income tax return for Owasco on Form 1120, and then he could pay taxes that it owed from Owasco's bank account. Now, this structure generally functioned effectively until 2017, when Hunter, as detailed below, subverted it. Telling us that...
One addendum to that really quickly. It's material, but it's going to come up at the later indictment, or later on in the indictment. That is technically true, this structure, if we're talking about Owasco PC. But remember, Hunter in 2014 set up Rosemont Seneca Bohai with a heretofore unnamed business associate named Devin Archer to collect the Burisma fees. The Burisma fees should have went to Owasco PC, but they went to Rosemont Seneca Bohai. So I don't agree with number 30 in total. He'd been subverting it since 2014, and that is why letting the statute of limitations run out is so damn unjust. It's still 2014, but I digress.
Yeah, and then they could have charged him going back further or charged him earlier. I mean, all this is now coming out here in 2023. Okay. So we see that there was some functionality here, some tax, they kind of were kicking around taxes. Somebody at least had a conversation about taxes. They set up another account. Irrespective, though, they subverted it. So then, irrespective of the Owasco PC structure and his standalone, they put this one in quotes, quote, tax account, like, okay, like it's your whatever, like nice job, bro. We know what it is. Hunter knew that he had to file individual and corporate income tax returns and pay taxes on the income that he earned in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. He had done so for tax years 14 and 15, 2 years preceding the scheme to not pay the taxes.
That is the first sentence that I can say with confidence. Now, your viewers can disagree or agree that that is materially wrong. And what do I base my statement off of? The IRS guys who investigated the case. The IRS whistleblower statements do not agree with this sentence at all. And I sent it to their attorney. I said, this is not what Joe Ziegler said or Gary Shapley said at all. So I would bracket that sentence.
So you're saying that he did not pay taxes for the years 14 and 15?
He didn't pay all of them. Joseph Ziegler, to this day, contends there's about $250,000 of Burisma income that he never paid taxes on. And that's why he's so mad that he thinks Weiss and Leslie Wolf let the statute of limitations run. But the IRS can still civilly go after him, and they should. They can't criminally, though.
Interesting. Okay, good details there. So they tell us that Hunter then timely filed, after requesting an extension, his 2014 individual tax return on a Form 1040 on October 9, 2015. They say that Hunter reported owing $239,000 in taxes, and having already paid $246,000 to the IRS, he claimed he was entitled to a refund of just under $8,000. Hunter did not report his income from Burisma on his 2014 Form 1040. So all the money that Hunter received from Burisma in 2014 went to a company hereinafter called ABC.
Rosemont Seneca Bohai.
Okay, so, and that's different than...
So it's really RSB. That's what they called it. RSB, LLC. Domiciled in Delaware. The address was Devin Archer in New York City.
And that's different than the other one, BHR, right? So we have these different initials that are...
I know.
Often a lot of the same initials. Yeah. So, okay, so it's Rosemont Seneca Bohai, and they're calling it ABC. So it was then deposited into its bank account. So RSB and its bank account were then owned and controlled by a business partner of Hunter, Business Associate 5.
Devin Archer.
Devin Archer.
1,000% certain on that.
That's Devin Archer.
Those are the next sentence.
And Devin Archer's the guy who we saw testify in front of, I think, Oversight, and had an interview with Tucker and a bunch of things.
Yeah, Pathetic Limited Hangouts, but yes.
Devin Archer was also a member of Burisma's board of director. And so there you go. That's Hunter's bro, right? I mean, they were kind of palling around a lot of the time. Hunter then received transfers of funds from RSB, the bank account, and funds from the RSB bank account were then used to make investments on Hunter's behalf.
Sorry.
No, what were? Do you know what those investments were?
Yes, a couple of the investments are in our dossier. One was a failed tech fund in Hawaii called M Bloom, run by Joey's Commerce Department Deputy Secretary named Donald Graves. Then run by Don Graves, Graves. And look up M Bloom, MBLOOM, and it totally blew up, and the U.S. taxpayer blew like $145,000 on this pet project that Hunter was involved with Burisma cash. M Bloom.
Perfect. Okay, so he's making these boneheaded investments on Hunter's behalf. Now, because he owned ABC, or a part of RSB, Devin Archer paid taxes on income that he and Hunter received from Burisma. Now, starting in November, Hunter then directed his Burisma board fees to an Owasco PC bank account that he controlled. So Devin is kind of covering for Hunter in a way, like paying taxes on his behalf. And Hunter apparently doesn't want that. He takes that money away from Burisma, puts it back into his bank account so that he can have full control of it. What are you doing
following the law, man? This is like my freaking piggy bank. Remember what Joey says? Nobody F's with a Biden.
That's right. Yeah, and we've seen emails from Hunter to Devin, and I think Hunter would have, Hunter treated Devin like, like a groupie kind of in many emails. It felt like he was, even when Devin was, I think, under some pressure, right? He was talking and exchanging text messages with Hunter, and Hunter's just like, deal with it. You got to kind of fall on the sword for this. Like,
Hunter was patronizing, but it's ironic because Devin was much more handsome and charismatic, but Hunter knew that Devin was around to do the work.
Yeah.
But Devin would have never got those opportunities had it not been for the Biden surname. So that's why I think the interviews with Tucker are only half-assed.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt to me like Hunter was kind of exploiting him, and he kind of just wanted to be in a little bit of his aura to some degree, and so it's kind of a weird position.
Devin was a willing whore in the FARA violating scheme.
Right. Okay, so Hunter then, they say he timely filed, after requesting an extension, his 2015 individual tax return on Form 1040, did that in 2016. And Hunter, at that time, reported owing $820,000 in taxes, withholding $644,000, saying he owed the IRS $176,000. Now, for 2015, he declared income he received. He did declare the Burisma income on the form that year. From at least 2017 through April 2017, so a couple months in that year, Business Associate 4, which remind me was James Biden, Jimmy, and Personal Assistant 1, they provided Hunter with periodic updates of his cash flow and his outstanding liabilities, including various income tax liabilities.
So this is Joanne Mayer. Joanne, Mayer.
Okay.
Like John, Joanne Mayer.
She is Personal Assistant 1, and so she's presumably working for Hunter, for the family, for James?
For Hunter. She's another babysitter like Eric. I mean, this is an F-up, right? He's on crack. So he needs handlers to get to work on time and make sure Maisie's soccer games are attended haphazardly, things like that.
So they're sending him emails from April 2017 to September 2017. Personal Assistant 1, which is Mayer, she sent Hunter a, quote, weekly bill update saying, hey, you've got IRS liabilities, you've got other outstanding bills. Hunter controlled his finances, and he directed James and Personal Assistant 1 to pay certain bills and not others. Said, pay this, don't pay that. Hunter routinely chose to pay personal expenses and not pay his taxes. Now, further, beginning in or around May of 2017, Hunter began to make periodic $10,000 payments to the IRS to address his 2015 individual income tax liability. And between May 2017 and March 2018, he made 7 payments totaling $70,000, but made no further payments after March 2018. At that time, he still owed for the year 2015 $106,000. So then Hunter used the services of a DC accountant from January 1 until he died, the accountant, in June 2019.
Bill Morgan of Morgan Wingate.
All right, so we got Bill, and so Bill is no
you know
longer.
what? We made a mistake. We didn't make a mistake in identification. We made a mistake in labeling. Jimmy is business associate 3 and Schwerin is 4, right?
Okay.
So Jimmy's 3, Schwerin's 4. It changes nothing material other than labeling. We got the right people.
Okay. So we'll keep that in mind as we carry on. We say here in 2019, November, Hunter then engaged the services of an accounting firm in Los Angeles and California. So he then, it sounds like he's trying to find some professionals maybe to fix some of this stuff up.
Edward White Company.
Okay.
Edward White is the name of the accounting practice.
Okay, we'll mark that there. Then, subsection E, they carry on. This is the government. They tell us that rather than pay his taxes, Hunter then spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle, saying Hunter spent millions on extravagant lifestyle at the same time that he chose not to pay his taxes. Hunter spent approximately $1 million in 2016, $1.4 million in 2017, $1.8 million in 2018, and then only $600,000 in 2019. So he was on a pretty upward trajectory there, and then that got cut down by 60%. That's in 2019. From January through October 15, 2020, Hunter received more than $1.2 million in financial support that was used to pay various personal expenses, but not any of his federal income tax liabilities. That was for the years 2016 to 19. Now, between 2016 and 2020, Hunter spent his money, here's the government writing, on drugs, escorts, girlfriends, luxury hotels, rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature. In short, everything but his taxes. They say the following.
That is in our dossier, 3 sections: business-related crimes, sex-related crimes, drug-related crimes. And you can follow along, as he mentioned, just a reminder, for free at bidenreport.com, bidenreport.com.
And they continue. What's that, Garrett?
Here's the Mac Daddy. This page 13 is the first time in a couple of years I've been proud of the feds. This took months of work.
Let's get into it. Paragraph 38 says the following is a summary of the approximate expenditures that the defendant made instead of paying his taxes, right? And hand caught in the cookie jar on that one. So summary of the approximate expenses made from Owasco PC and the defendant's bank accounts. Garrett, you want to walk us through some of the highlights, maybe anything you had zoomed in on?
Yes. So number one, Hunter retained Edward White and Company in part because, unlike us, I have a personal checking account, Marco Polo does. When Marco Polo's board goes through our bank statements, we like most mere mortals, not a Princeling, not a Biden, people do F with us. We classify each line item as subscriptions, household, right? You classify expenses in your online banking software. Hunter's a Princeling. He doesn't do that. So they hired Edward White to go through all of these different bank accounts, classify expenses, and then put them in these categories. What I will say about the very first row, ATM cash cash withdrawal, the breakup of these affects ones down the line in terms of classification, meaning a lot of times he paid for crack with cash for obvious reasons. Maybe the crack dealer doesn't have a bank account or he's unbanked. Maybe he doesn't want it traced. So these cash withdrawals are not normal. You do not see, for example, in 2018, he got $772,000 in cash out of ATMs. And in our dossier, we go through how Hunter had a arrangement with hookers whereby he would send them a code, and Wells Fargo had this feature whereby the women didn't have to have his debit card to withdraw cash from the ATM. He'd send them a code. The hooker would grab the $800 with his code and then come to his room. This is all laid out in the text messages. So first row, ATM cash withdrawal. Many vices are capitalized through this. The crack the women, the smoking accessories. The next one is payments of various women. This is government boring speak for pimps, hookers, other things. And again, just as we go through this, Robert, I just want to let everybody know this is not somebody who is lauded as a black sheep of the family. The U.S. president said this is the smartest man he knows from a pure intellectual capacity. So this man spent like this, and he from an intellectual capacity, smartest man the Western world's leader knows.
And flying around with him to all these events, staying at the White House. We saw, back when Joe was VP, he was taking him around to China and different places like that. So it's very curious.
Yes. And what is material, and what I probably should have started off with, is not just that he made these expenses from his business bank account. It's that he tried to write off some of these as legitimate business expenses. So to Hunter Biden, paying a Russian prostitute for sex is a business expense. That's just something to keep him going in the nihilism of life. That is obviously sarcastic. But
right.
Here we have clothing and accessories, $397,000 over a 4-year period.
Yeah, and just let's hit the total numbers on that. So like over various women was 4,400 in 2016, went up to 138,000 in 2017. 2018 was up to 383,000. 2019 back down to 156,000, and the total is $683,000, right, over the 4 years. So six
Average
figures basically per year.
2020 is about $35,000. So the Bidens are not like you and me; they're special, as Great Gatsby would say.
Right.
Clothing and accessories, 78.5 in 2016, 113, 151, 53. We have multiple receipts in our dossier and on the laptop, spending $6,500 on a sport coat at an Italian luxury wear. And again, he's not making these fees legitimately. I said this on War Room earlier this morning. This indictment deals with what happened to the money once it got in the pot, right? It'd be one thing if Hunter was a legitimate businessman and the pot was filled with cash through legal means, and
right.
then he spent like this. No, this cash was coming from Chi-Com operatives, and it was being spent on hookers and blow and clothes.
Right, and yeah, and Joe Biden, right, and the Biden family, they have to be aware of some of these behaviors. They have to understand where the money is coming from, right? And it feels to me like Joe Biden is enabling that, right? It's exploiting it. He has to know that it's happening, or
exactly. Ben Shapiro says a lot of dumb things. Probably the dumbest in 2022. He said that from all available evidence, Joe Biden seems to be a very good father.
Right.
That's what Ben Shapiro said. Couldn't be farther from the truth. Joey knows his son is an F up. He knows he's an addict, and yet he wants him for the cash. Hunter was the bag man for over a decade. So Joey is the type of father to put his addict son in situations with loose women, foreign cash, and no oversight.
Right.
What could go wrong?
So we have a lot of numbers here: food and groceries, adult entertainment. Let's see what that one was looking like. So, wow. Okay. So yeah, $4,000 was where that started. And then it went up to 56,000, then up to $100,000, and then back down to 27,000. So that totaled about 188,000 over the 4 years, which was, I think, less than, that was more expensive than his legal fees. So
we're talking, to give some clarity or granularity rather, adult entertainment is strip clubs, sex cam websites, pornography sites. Remember, the U.S. president still has an active Pornhub account, and he uploaded videos of himself to his Pornhub account. That's why this lawsuit they have against us is so stupid. Hunter lost any copyright or anything else when he uploaded his own porn videos to public Pornhub channels. RHB East is his username. RHB East.
Okay, that's great. So I didn't realize it was still active.
Still active. Now, he
didn't
locked it down a little bit.
Yeah.
He locked it down circa October 2020, but the content is still up there. And some people have actually, before he locked it down, some hilarious users, and we have this in our report, commented on several of his videos. Smartest man the U.S. president knows. Joey said he's done nothing wrong.
Amazing. Okay, well, Joe, it's going to be curious to see what Joe says about all this. And,
He's in Malibu right now. Joey is at a fundraiser in a couple of hours in his son's hometown. So I wonder if Hunter's going to be there. And
that's curious.
Our long-smoking bankroller, Kevin Morris.
So Joe just happens to be flying out there into California where this same indictment just dropped from his U.S. attorneys out there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got advisors, home improvement, childcare, healthcare, all this stuff, right? So they're saying all said and done, grand total of this, $4.9 million. All that money went out. None of it went to the government, right? There's no line item of the government that is here getting paid their tax money. So that's a chunk of fees. Was there anything else that was worth zooming in on?
Well, I just want to reiterate that a large portion of these were expensed. So, for example, he had a business. And he said that was a business expense. Again, normal humans don't act like that. And this isn't the case of an addict who was just doing degenerate things. Hunter was on the board of Burisma for the entirety of the conduct named in this, except the final 6 months of 2019. Think about that. He was a Ukrainian energy executive while he spent about $165,000 at strip clubs.
And there was that one story, I think, didn't he try to expense, I think, a $75,000, something like that, sex club? Like a big,
he tried to expense $10,000 entry fee to a sex club he got kicked out of for grabbing a woman's behind. And on the wire transfer, it said golf membership.
Nice.
$10,000 to a sex club. The U.S. president's son got kicked out of a sex club.
Couldn't even pass muster there. All right, so they carry on and they tell us that in addition to all that, right, we've got now huge gobs of money that are going to not taxes, that are problematic funds. They tell us that Hunter also then late filed his taxes when he was facing contempt charges. So he's kind of delaying this stuff, right? He's taking money out of his bank accounts, diverting funds, bypassing withholding and all the things. They tell us that suddenly in 2019 and early 2020, Hunter became embroiled in 2 civil lawsuits. Now, as part of the lawsuits, he had to produce financial records, including his tax returns, and these lawsuits forced him to ultimately file the returns for 17 and 18. Beginning in May 2019, Person 1 brought a paternity and a child support action in Arkansas State Court against Hunter.
London Roberts, and I was an expert witness for her and her attorneys.
That's right. London Roberts, that's right. And Garrett Ziegler, you were in court there in Arkansas.
Yes, with Hunter Biden.
With Hunter. Wild. Now, I'm sure that was a fun scene. Now, in June 2019, he says the defendant's ex-wife brought a motion. Hunter's ex-wife brought a motion to enforce a marital separation agreement between herself and Hunter in the Superior Court of the District of Columbia because Hunter had stopped making spousal support payments and refused to provide financial records, including his tax returns that were necessary to calculate the amount of spousal support that he owed per his agreement with his ex-wife.
Kathleen Buell, Buhle, hailing from Chicago.
And he's married now to Cohen.
Melissa Cohen, yes. And Kathleen and him was a shotgun marriage because she got pregnant with Naomi. And they married, Kathleen got married 5 months pregnant with Hunter in Chicago. And at one point in time, the initial spousal support was $37,000 a month. That was supposed to go to Kathleen, $37,000 a month.
And then he stopped making those payments. So then she files in D.C. In 2019, Hunter then continually stonewalled the production of the financial records through which Person 1, which was Roberts, right?
Yes, London Roberts.
and Hunter's ex-wife, and the court sought to ascertain the financial situation and the ability to pay. So zooming at Hunter's now, he's got these two civil suits, one from ex-wife, one from baby mama, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hunter then, the demands for Hunter's tax returns steadily increased, escalating then to November 2019. That month, Hunter then hired California accountants to prepare his late and his unfiled individual income tax returns and Owasco's corporate return for the 2017 and the 2018 years.
That's the same month he met Kevin Morris.
Same month he meets Kevin Morris. I'm trying to think about the political timeline as well, right? Joe's probably thinking about running around this time.
Joe is running. Joe announced in April of 2019, so he'd been on the trail for 6 months.
Okay.
And Hunter meets Kevin Morris at a fundraiser at Alyssa Milano's house, and the lawsuit from London, the mother of his child, is filed in May of 2019. So all this is coming to a head, and here cometh the caveman.
Yeah, and so subsequently then, the Arkansas court, where you were, issued an order that Hunter had until January 16, 2020 to produce his individual income tax returns from 17 and 18. In D.C., the Superior Court likewise ordered Hunter to produce the same returns by January 17, 2020. Now, Hunter missed both deadlines, prompting counsel in Arkansas and in D.C. to move for contempt. Now, if Hunter were to be found in contempt, either court could incarcerate him for his failure to comply with the court orders. On January 21st, 2020, Arkansas issued an order that Hunter appear and show cause, why he should not be held in contempt. Now, after Hunter entered into a temporary child support agreement with London, the court continued the hearing on the motion for contempt and gave Hunter until March 1st of 2020 to provide the missing records, including 17 and 18 in the income returns. On or about February 18, 2020, Hunter then late filed his 2017 1040 form, the tax form. On the 2017 form, Hunter reported $1.9 million in taxable income and $581,000 in tax due and owing. But Hunter chose not to pay any of his outstanding 2017 tax when he late filed into the 17 form in February of 2020. Now, that same day, Hunter also late filed his 2018 Form 1040. We'll wait for Garrett to jump back on. And on the 2018 Form 1040, the defendant reported $1.68 million in taxable income and $620,000 in taxes due and owing. The defendant, Hunter, again chose not to pay any of his outstanding 2018 tax liability when he late filed his 2018 form. So he's filing and filing and filing and not paying any taxes. Now, on June 12th, Hunter again late filed his 2016 form, reporting $1.2 million and reporting a $45,000 tax liability. Again, Hunter chose not to pay. And so we see numerous years where he is not paying. Hunter then, he had the funds, they say. Hunter.
There we go. Sorry about that.
And we're back. You're good. You're good. We're back. We just wrapped up the years. So we just finished the years. We know that he had several different years where he was late paying and he owed money, but he wasn't paying the money that was owed when he was making the filings.
Money comes in, paying for hookers and blow. Top of 16.
Top of 16, it's a lot more fun to pay that stuff for him than it is to pay your taxes. So you can see where his priorities were. So they say that he also had funds in 2017 and 2018, 19, and 20. They say, as described more and below, each year in which he failed to pay his taxes, we know he had sufficient funds available to pay some or all, literally all, of his outstanding taxes when they were due. But Hunter chose not to pay them. Notably, writes the government, in 2020, Hunter, well after he had regained his sobriety in 2020, and when he finally filed his outstanding 16, 17, 18 forms, Hunter did not direct any payments towards his tax liabilities for each of those years. Well, his dad's the president, it's like, or that was in 2020, but daddy's about to become president. So at the same time, Hunter spent large sums to maintain his lifestyle from January through October. And in that period, he received financial support from a personal friend, that's Kevin Morris, totaling $1.2 million. The financial support included hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments for, among other things, housing, media, relations, accountants, lawyers, and his Porsche. For example, they say Hunter spent $17,500 each month, totaling approximately $200,000 from January through October of 2020. Also spent on a lavish house on a canal in Venice Beach, California, and saying thus Hunter's practice of tax noncompliance in 17 and 18, where the IRS stood as the last creditor to be paid, persisted into the later tax years. And the government doesn't like it when they don't get their money. So that is the chunk of it. And I want to be cognizant of your time. You want to hit some of these counts?
Yes, absolutely. Keep going. I have at least 10, probably 15 more minutes.
Okay. So we'll see what we can get to. We got count one. Now, the grand jury realleges everything that we just said, right? So everything in there is going to be applicable to the rest of what we read as the baseline, the base layer. And then they're going to zoom in and charge him with specific offenses. So the grand jury, go ahead.
I don't know if I need to talk about this standing up, but you're the attorney. I am not. So maybe take the audience through. These are Leo Weiss and Derek Hines in front of maybe a dozen citizens of LA County in an open courtroom. There is a judge present, correct?
Yeah.
And they're taking him through evidence, probably on a PowerPoint screen. And that's the setting. So, you know, you can indict a ham sandwich. That's always the saying. You can't really.
Right.
But anybody can be indicted for anything if the jury is ridiculous. But all of these things that we're talking about, this is not a normal indictment because of the laptop, right? So I just want to get that across. And have you ever, I can't recall your exact CV. Maybe you have more color on the process of a grand jury and calling one and everything else.
Well, I've never been a prosecutor, so I've never led a grand jury. That's something that the government does. But
of course, but in your discovery process, you've seen probably many grand jury transcripts, right? For the defendants you had.
I have. I've seen transcripts, and I've submitted filings to sort of nudge my way into grand jury proceedings. You know, grand jury proceedings are secretive, and they're kept, you know, really under the dark of night. It's really hard to get stuff. Even here in Arizona, when we would get transcripts and pull the transcripts out, we'd have to turn them back in. You know, it's all very secretive and protective to protect the integrity of the grand jury process. But from the government's perspective, they have a lot of leeway. They've got, you know, the capability to present what they think is going to stick, and they can make their decision. The grand jury, it resembles kind of a jury proceeding, or like a trial, but a mini trial where the government is presenting and the defense is not there. And so there are some mechanisms. You know, what was interesting in this case, and I still don't know the details on this, there are some mechanisms by which a defense can fight their way into the grand jury, or at least here in Arizona, we had a process where there's a form of a letter that you can submit to the grand jury, basically, you know, pitching your case as to why there's not probable cause here to bring these charges. But this is a very preliminary stage of the case. They're not having to prove somebody's guilty here, just that there's enough cause to indict them and go to the next step. And so you might, you know, the other process.
Now, what is the evidentiary standard? Perhaps you can enlighten us, because for conviction is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Probable cause essentially is where you're at, or just enough to file it. The prosecutor's presenting to the grand jury. It's a probable cause standard. They meet that standard, and it's enough that the charge can move forward. So think about the other parallel way that this works. So people get indicted in two ways: one through a grand jury, one through a direct complaint. A direct complaint is when we've seen these, like an FBI special agent will also write a search warrant and an affidavit, and they'll justify their criminal charges. That's because that officer has done an investigation. They've analyzed the case. They've decided that there is enough cause here to file a direct complaint, and then it goes to
that has to be signed by a judge.
That is sworn off on by the government. It's a witness. The officer is a witness. The prosecutor is taking that witness as evidence and then swearing it on a complaint, and then the complaint goes in front of the court. Now, when that happens, what we're trying to do is protect the defendant against unreasonable charges without cause, right? If you can just charge somebody and put them through the process of being indicted or being charged with a crime, there are already penalties associated with a criminal charge, even if you've not been found guilty of anything yet. So we give the defense an opportunity to challenge an indictment or to challenge a direct complaint. And in a direct complaint format, what we would do is actually request a preliminary hearing, and you'd have a trial, like a mini trial, to establish probable cause at that outset. And that would result in bringing witnesses in, right? A preliminary hearing through a direct complaint is where you bring witnesses in, and it's actually like a miniature trial. And we just covered one of these. I forget what case it was, but relatively recently. But an indictment bypasses all of that, right? An indictment is the government just taking it to a grand jury, which is done undercover. You can't see that. And then if the grand jury indicts, right, they think there's enough probable cause to bring the charges forward, and then you don't get the right to a preliminary hearing. Now you've been indicted.
Yes. And this is baked into the Bill of Rights, right? The founders believed that it's going to be harder for more people to be corrupt, right? That's why you have to be convicted by a jury of your peers. To me, this is so beautiful, it makes my hair stand up. Because by nature, my personal disposition, and I know this is going to sound weird to you because this is essentially me being on the prosecutorial side, but by nature, I'm like you. My disposition is protecting defendant rights and don't make the government not harass people, and making that be a high bar. That's why I'm so mad they raided James O'Keefe's apartment. They did not have probable cause, and they put a secret gag order on Google to make Google not tell them that they were searched, their emails, that is. So I want everybody to listen to this, that even if you like Hunter Biden personally or hate me personally, we want to be fair to all. And the reason why this is so nuts is because in most indictments in front of a grand jury, we don't have this evidence. So I think that's essential to point out.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely agree with the presumption of innocence. I think that these safeguards are extremely important. I think due process is very important. And that's why you'll hear on this channel us defending the Trump trials very aggressively, because I feel like many of those were violations of those very same principles. But as you mentioned, okay, what we've been observing in this Hunter case from day one, and it's not just us speculating. You wrote 600 plus pages about it in the book at marcopolousa.org. You can get your copy. And what we saw from the DOJ was, in my opinion, a massive double standard of justice. And maybe you can, opine on this, but there was even some evidence, I think, that maybe came out from the whistleblowers, the IRS whistleblowers, that said that the DOJ was going to try to not charge Hunter at all. Okay, so not even diversion, like the deal that he was going to get that was botched, but they were going to actually give him a better deal, right, without even presenting any of this to anybody.
Precisely, and that is why Shapley came forward on his own accord. Ziegler and Shapley are both commendable, but they're not equal. Shapley came forward on his own accord, and Ziegler responded to a letter from the Congress and then cooperated. But Shapley, if it weren't for Shapley, none of that would have happened. And Ziegler said that. He said that the courage displayed by Shapley inspired him to come forward because he knew this was a sham. So Shapley comes forward and says, hey, look, this is a miscarriage of justice. There's an unequal application of the law. If his name were Hunter Smith, he would have been indicted back in 2020. And, and Hunter gets his day in court. Me and you are never going to argue, and this is like a duh thing to your normal viewers, but we want Hunter to get his day in court. I want Abby Lowell up there with the PowerPoint, looking at the Venmo transactions. I want Abby Lowell to defend a $1,500 artwork payment to a woman named Soldalina Tolentino. I would love Abby Lowell to do that. I'm being a little bit facetious. But if you were a defense attorney, this indictment is nuts. It's if you were called on to represent this defendant, you'd get sweaty palms because this is not a normal indictment.
Well, it's a tough case. I mean, if I was representing Hunter, I would have done everything in my power to get him to take that plea deal back at the original outset. And when we were reading through that transcript here, I was shocked at how derailed the whole thing got. And I was even shocked that his defense attorneys were being as kind of ornery as they were, because I think that if they would have just squeezed this whole thing through, even if there were some questionable errors in the actual structure of the deal, Hunter would have had a much better opportunity to claim immunity from further prosecution. And I think he would have had an argument that all of these charges were invalid and precluded based upon his prior deal.
Precisely. If they just would have said that, let's say they agree to the plea deal and then they indict him again because the government said no. In the plea deal, the government said no, this investigation's ongoing. Hunter could always argue that they were later indicting him on something covered, like you said, by that statement of facts. So I think they realize this, and that's why Chris Clark and Latham and Watkins got the boot, and now it's an Abby Lowell show with just their local counsel, Bartholomew Dalton. And get this, this is new. Hunter's gonna have to get local counsel in California for Abby Lowell. Remember, now let's see if it's the same guy suing me. Paul Savati, Salvaty, partner at Winston Strawn in LA's office, is the lead counsel for our case because he's local in the Central District. So I'm watching Court Listener every 5 minutes. Derek Hines just made his entry of appearance, but we'll see who the local counsel is on the criminal side for Hunter. It'd probably be somebody at Winston and Strawn, but who knows? And then Abby will do pro hac vice. But I've got to run. This was so fun because you and I are nerds, and I want you to look into our case. We owe a response by Friday, 7 days from now, in the Central District, same district. And guess what? He may be arraigned when I'm out there. I'm heading out to California next week just to be with the attorneys. And I would love for him to be arraigned that day because we're gonna get billboard trucks for the second time this year, and we'll have him driving around the courthouse when his ass is brought up there with the Secret Service in tow. And the judge is not a crazy. The judge is a Trump-appointed judge. You know the judge in our case, Robert? Gave money to the plaintiff's daddy. Gave Joey $2,000 in 2020.
Wow.
And he also was appointed by Joey. So the plaintiff's daddy appointed the judge over our case. And the judge's ex-wife is the current Secretary of Labor appointed by Joe. So you can help us. Everybody can help us out by going to fightbiden.org. Take it off on your taxes before the 31st. It's a C3. It can't be much easier. Fightbiden.org. And I want to come back on your program. I appreciate it.
Garrett, you're amazing, man. You're doing really, really impressive and great work. And
thank you.
We're appreciative of your time.
Thank you. And I know sobriety guides your words and sobriety guides mine. We never want to accuse Hunter of something he doesn't do. But this is all real. It's hair-raising stuff. This is nuts. And Joey was the chairman. You know why I call him that? Because Hunter called him that. He said to Rob Walker, James Gillier, and Tony Babalinsky that my chairman says it's an emphatic no. So Joey's Hunter's chairman. Everybody should remember that.
And it's all in the family, man. And there's been a collusion to cover this whole thing up and to just sweep it under the rug. But you are doing incredible work to shine the spotlight on it, my friend. And thank you so much for your time today.
It's a group effort. Thank you.
All right, Garrett, my friend. Good luck out there. We'll talk to you later, my friend.
Godspeed.
Be well. All right. So, my friends, that was Garrett Ziegler, and he is, of course, at MarcoPoloUSA.org. And I really recommend you take a look at this book. I've got a copy right here. I've got another copy back up there because we always want to keep it front and center so that more people can understand the great work that they're doing over there. We appreciate him joining us. And so check them out, MarcoPoloUSA.org. And here is, if you go to fightbiden.org, so let's make sure that is the address, fightbiden.org. You can also go over there and support him, right? He's actually being sued by these guys. Here's what the website says. It says, thank you for helping us fight back. We're being subjected to egregious lawfare by associates of the U.S. president. Given Marco Polo's nonprofit status, enjoy your contribution to our legal defense fund. It's all tax deductible. Please watch this background video for the lawsuits, and you get more updates there. So fightbiden.org is the place to go, and you can see they need some donos to be made. So head on over there and support them because they are doing some pretty amazing work. And we'll carry on because we still have some other stuff that we can jump into. Let's go back to the rest of the indictment and wrap it up and see what else we've got here. So we've got count one. As you can see here, the defendant earned a substantial income in 2016, telling us over the course of 2016, he got $1.58 million in gross income. And so we're going to wrap this up. And then we've got a couple clips because we've got reaction from some other people. Hunter actually has a reaction. Biden avoids the question. We've got an oversight statement coming out. And we've got an IRS whistleblower statement coming out. So we'll just wrap up with the indictment and see what else is here before we go into that other stuff, telling us that Hunter had a legal obligation to file the U.S. individual tax return, saying for tax year 2016, anyone under 65 filing jointly, or who made more than this, they had to file by a certain time. And here, he knew. They say he knew he had to pay taxes. So in 2017, Business Associate 4 and Personal Assistant 1, they frequently told Hunter that he owed taxes. Okay, April, Associate 4 forwarded Hunter an email from the accountant. It says, it looks like Owasco is going to owe $52,000, Hunter. It looks like you're going to individually owe $26,000, Hunter. In 2017, the DC accountant also used information, also told Hunter, said you're responsible for signing and mailing your returns. We told you. Here, his assistant also said, or Hunter responded to his assistant and to Business Associate 4. Hunter said, I just saw last week the unmarked envelope. The office requires signatures for my taxes. I wish someone had told me, but it's my fault for thinking of that or for having ignored an email that I'm sure Eon of you sent. There is a large envelope in the office sitting to the door, which requires 50 signatures, including my ex-wife's. So it sounds like a crackhead email to me. Now, Hunter then brought the 2016 form to his ex-wife, asked her to sign it. She said, yeah, I'll sign it. Now, after reviewing the document with her accountant, so she signed it. Then Hunter's ex-wife texted him, said that their unfiled tax returns were in the trunk of your car. But the tax returns were not filed. Then we see that he owes taxes for 2016, didn't pay those. He told him he owes $26,000 there, didn't pay him. But he had the funds to do it and chose not to. He spent approximately $187,000 on personal expenses rather than pay the $40,000 that he owed. So he had $187,000, but he couldn't pay the $45,000. So they say we're charging him with a crime for that. That's count one. Count two, over the course of 2017, same thing. He earned a bunch of money, $2.3 million. He did not timely file. He knew he had to pay. People were telling him. Personal Assistant 2 said, you owe a lot of money, her words in quotes. You owe a lot of money. So he set up a call between Hunter and the DC accountant, and they prepared his tax returns, and they gave it to him, and they emailed him. They said, Hunter, on October 12th, they sent him an email saying, you owe $600,000 and $204,000 in income taxes. But then in October, instead of responding to the accountant, Hunter, he texted his ex-wife back. He said that I can't make my alimony payment to you because the wire came back due to insufficient funds. And tuitions, alimony, taxes, and rent. Jesus, is what Hunter said. Alimony, taxes. Okay, they put that in bold. Like he knows that he had to pay his taxes, but he didn't pay it. Hunter had not paid his 2017 taxes when he sent this text. Didn't pay him, but he knew he had to. He also someone emailed him again saying, you got to pay your taxes. File your returns as soon as possible. Then the 2017 returns are still unfiled. You need to get 2017 filed so we can try to work out a payment schedule. Now, in December of 2018, Hunter texted his ex-wife. He said, I have no money. I'm waiting on a few things. When I can pay the taxes, I'll pay the taxes. In the meantime, I can't pay her alimony and all the girls' expenses. Then he texted Personal Assistant 2 in November, asked him to send her all the auto pay expenses and the payroll breakdown. She sent him another email. And then his ex-wife texted him, and he told his ex-wife, my tax returns aren't completed. I have no prepared tax returns to send now. He had a duty to pay his $585,000 in taxes, but didn't pay it. And rather than pay his taxes, he spent millions of dollars on extravagant lifestyles. That's count two. We got count three. Similarly here, he made $2.3 million, and you get the rest of the pattern here. Okay, count four, he made $2.8 million, $2.1 million. Not paying his taxes. got a bunch of money from Burisma in 2019, 30,000, 39,000 there, 40,000 here. And he instead spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle. He spent more than 1.8 million, including 772,000 in cash withdrawals, 383,000 to payments to women, 151,000 for other things, and we know those numbers as well. And so you see count 5, he received 2.1 million, count 6, he hired accountants, he had extensive business travel that he claimed, but turns out that's not true. He specifically described his stays in his book now. So they're going through his book. They're saying, Hunter talked a lot about his book, by the way. Private rentals, he said, I stayed in one place until I got tired of it. I moved on with my merry band of crooks, creeps, and outcasts. Availability drove some of the moves. Impulsiveness drove others. A sample itinerary, says Hunter in his crack book, says, I left the Chateau Marmont. First time for an Airbnb in Malibu. When I couldn't reserve it for longer than a week, I returned to West Hollywood and the Jeremy Hotel. There were then stays at the Sunset Tower, 60 Beverly Hills, Hollywood Roosevelt, another Airbnb in Malibu, and the Hollywood Hills. Then back to the Chateau. Then the Nomad downtown. Then the guys, on crack all over the place. Then he says their stripper girlfriends invited their stripper girlfriends who invited their boyfriends. They drink the entire minibar and we go crazy. So the defendant did not write that he conducted any business on any of those hotels. They weren't doing deals there. And so he needed to pay his taxes. He failed to identify all personal expenses. The defendant met with the CA accountant in person, and they stayed at Borgata. They stayed at Virgin America and Los Angeles flights, $43,000 at the Chateau Marmont Hotel, $7,000 for Airbnb, $8,000 for John Hancock, paid to John Hancock for his personal life insurance. The general ledger also was $11,000 in payments, $975 for the crutch card, and a lot. Now, he said he falsely claimed that money paid to women with whom he had personal relationships was wages. Okay, so he lied about it. He was paying hookers. He said, no, those were my employees. Showed that he paid $86,000 in wages, but he knew that it was a false deduction. He engaged in little to no business activity, but instead he provided health care. He provided health care benefits to 3 women who he had romantic and sexual relationships with, and a 4th woman who was related to one of these women. He's like, yeah, no, I'll put you on my health care. Yeah, put your sister on there too. These payroll expenses were treated as business expenses on his form, and so he deducted it from his taxes. Now, person 1, which is London, as Garrett told us, described the above as bringing the paternity suit against the defendant who had been engaged in a romantic relationship, and there's a lot more here. So you can see he falsely identified personal expenses as business deductions. Here, what did he spend? $1,200. He got an airline ticket to fly an exotic dancer from LA to New York. Yeah, I'll buy your plane ticket. He got $3,800 as a business expense for a Lamborghini. Then he paid $4,400 to a hotel, $11,000 to another hotel, $11,000 to another hotel, $95,000 to another one, Kimpton. London West, $4,300 to Caesar's Palace. Look at all these, man. He circled a $275 dinner with his girlfriend as a business expense. All said and done, 100 travel expenses, $134,000, and he just wrote them all off. And all of it was not accounted for. So you can see, they say in truth, Hunter used the business line of credit to pay for all sorts of stuff, and none of it was legitimate. Also paid to daughters of people. The categories of payments were all wrong, and he knowingly filed and signed the false tax returns, fraudulent documents being submitted to the government. Count 7, same thing. Count 8, same thing. He caused to be filed a declaration that he said was true, and he knew it was not true. He did not believe that it was true. Those were hookers, not employees. He earned a ton of money, and he continued this charade for a long time. Those are the charges. This went in front of a grand jury. The 4 persons signed off on it, and found that there was enough cause to bring the case against him. And so this is the full indictment, 56 pages, much of it detailed by our good friend Garrett Ziegler at MarcoPoloUSA.org, where you can get a copy of the Hunter Biden report, the report on the Biden laptop, and they could use your support with a dono or with a purchase or something, because they're facing some pretty monstrous people on the other side. And so we, of course, will be here continuing to cover the Hunter Biden saga and more, my friends. We look forward to having you subscribe. Thank you for checking out robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you there and here on the next one. Now, my friends, let us make sure we get to some reaction on the case, because we do have some response here, and let's see what these people say. And we'll start here with the Oversight Committee. Hunter Biden has been indicted. A lot of people have some reaction to this, including Joe, who was just walking across the White House lawn, not saying much. But Hunter also showed up on a podcast, and he's responding to the indictment, saying things like the Republicans are just trying to take me out because he knows how bad it's going to hurt my daddy. We also have reaction from the IRS whistleblowers, who did a lot of incredible work in exposing this and making this rigged plea deal that Hunter Biden was about to take become derailed. But we're going to start with the Oversight Committee, because we know James Comer and Jim Jordan and others have been digging into this for some time, and they posted this. They said, breaking: Hunter Biden has been indicted in California. This would not have been possible without two brave IRS whistleblowers called Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler blowing the whistle. Said Americans should applaud these men for their courage to expose the truth. And we do. We're very grateful that they came out. We're grateful to Garrett Ziegler, the team at MarcoPoloUSA.org, for also digging into this and keeping the spotlight shined. But here's what the Oversight said on their website. They say, here's the statement. They say, all right, two brave IRS whistleblowers have come forward. They placed their careers on the line, and the Biden people are trying to take these guys out. Says the DOJ got caught in its attempt to give Hunter an unprecedented sweetheart plea deal, and the charges against Hunter are the result of Ziegler and Shapley's efforts. Every American should applaud these men. Said that the whistleblowers revealed investigators were prevented from following evidence that could have led to Joe Biden. Explaining how Biden's influence peddling schemes show how Joe himself knew about these things, participated in, benefited from them, all cashing in on the Biden name. In fact, Hunter's corporate entities implicated by today's indictments showed that they funneled foreign cash that all landed into Joe Biden's bank account, and says unless Weiss investigates everyone involved in this fraud scheme, it's going to be clear that Biden's DOJ is protecting Hunter Biden and the big guy. So are there going to be more charges coming, or is this kind of the end of the line here? That's what Oversight said. Now, speaking of the IRS whistleblowers, these gentlemen really put the brakes on all of this, and here's what they said. This is over from Empower Oversight. They say, statement from the IRS Supervisory Special Agent Gary Shapley and Special Agent Joseph Ziegler. Says, 8 months ago, we did something ordinary people don't do. We risked our careers and reputations to bring the truth out of the shadows and into the light. We were moved solely by our consciences, yet face continual attacks. Nevertheless, in the face of all odds, we never wavered from what we shared with Congress. Today's indictment is a complete vindication of our thorough investigation and underscores the wide agreement by investigators and prosecutors that the evidence supported charges against Hunter. Yet, as we have stated, this is much bigger than our investigation or any one individual. It's about equal treatment of taxpayers under the law. And that's from Empower Oversight. You can give them a follow at this account, empower_US, and they are out with some more comments. Here is what they said on John Solomon's show, saying it's amazing how much visibility these whistleblowers have brought to this story. I agree with that. And I think that Hunter also botched it. If Hunter would have just shooken his head yes, then I think the judge may have even accepted this, but he didn't. And so now he's facing 9 new charges. So that is what we saw over from the whistleblowers. Biden didn't really want to answer the question. He got asked about this when he was walking across the White House lawn. You see, this came over from Town Hall and RNC. They tell us that Biden dodges the question on Hunter's new charges. Here's what that sounds like. You guys aren't getting sound on that? I know why. You guys are not getting sound on that? I know why that is. 1 second. Problem will be solved very shortly. It's because we were in interview mode. Now we're going to be in sound mode. This is Biden dodging the question.
Any comment on the new charges against your son, Mr. President? Have you called Speaker Johnson on the border in Ukraine funding, Mr. President?
Not much from him. Oh man, so he was even struggling on that last step there, man. All right, so would have liked to see another frame or two on that one. All right, so John Solomon was the other clip that we did not play. So let me see if I can cue that one back up. Where did that one go? Where the heck did that one go? All right, let me try to find that other clip. Oh, I got to do all this stuff again. All right, 1 second. We are making some changes on the fly. On the day. I don't know what I did with the John Solomon clip. 1 second. Let me grab that one. Empower US is right here. And this is going to be the clip from John Solomon here.
Sweetheart deal that prosecutors were going to give Hunter Biden would have gone through were it not for these brave whistleblowers stepping forward and illuminating us. It's amazing how much.
All right, so they are out. Let's see if there's anything from Comer and Oversight, if they had anything to say about this recent breakdown. This is James Comer reacting on CNN. Says, we have some concerns about this. Maybe they indicted him to protect him, right? Maybe this whole thing's a cover-up. Maybe that this is just trying to save Joe Biden and throw Hunty to the wolves. Here's Comer.
Protect him.
Income. So we think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We think there are many more crimes. And my concern is that Weiss may have indicted Hunter Biden to protect him from having to be deposed.
Yes.
In the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday.
He indicted him to protect him. Yes. The classic rubric. He indicted him to protect him. I got it.
Okay, so Jake is being very mocky right there. But yeah, he got indicted so he doesn't have to go testify to the Oversight Committee. Why is that strange? Indicted him with pretty minor crimes, right? They were going to give him no plea deal, no charges at all, just kind of dismiss the whole thing. Then diversion, which would have ultimately been dismissed. Now, because he's throwing a fit, they had to do something else. Now they're charging him with a little bit more. So maybe it does make sense that they're doing it so that he doesn't have to testify.
Look, this whole thing's been about a cover-up. You know, you've got two.
That's why he indicted him to protect him, to cover it up.
Well, look, you indict him on the least little thing, the gun charge, and not paying taxes.
He's facing like 17 additional years in prison.
Yeah, but Jake, the justice system's a joke. Don't you understand?
Yeah, but look what he's done. Anybody else?
Yeah, nobody cares. Okay, Jake, these guys, they love the numbers, right? It's all number. Oh my gosh, it's like Trump, 91 charges for Trump. Oh, 91. It's like, okay, but the justice system is illegitimate, right? Nobody really believes it. So yeah, maybe, Jake. Now here's Hunter, who is taking this stand. He says that, Hunter Biden on the corruption allegations, he says, this may not, wild clip, this may not in every respect be a Russian disinformation campaign, but it literally has every earmark of what the Russians did. All right, here's Hunter, the smartest man Joe knows.
Which, by the way, this whole idea that this may not in every aspect be a Russian disinformation campaign, but it has literally every earmark of what the Russians did.
Yeah.
There's what's it
Yeah.
called? It's called eliminationist rhetoric. Eliminationist rhetoric was something that the Nazis came up with as a tool to undermine their political rivals. And then Putin has fine-tuned it. And what Putin did when he was coming to power in the early 2000s was there were still some real significant voices of some with real money and intellectual public standing inside of Russia or living as expatriates that were speaking out against Putin. So what did he do? He didn't argue with them on the merits. He didn't argue with them about economic policy and democracy and the freedom to vote because he knew he'd lose that argument. So what did he do? He labeled them pedophiles. He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers. And so maybe
he probably indicted his political opponents too, right?
only 10% of the people then in the public would.
So when you find, you see what Hunter's doing? So when you find that type of content on his laptop, when you get word that this thing is much worse than even anybody can even admit, okay, at the moment, that's because of Trump. Trump is taking a play out of the Russian book, and Hunter's illegal content that the FBI had in their possession for a long time and did nothing about. It's propaganda, isn't it?
Believe this shit. But then when he would turn around after he got 10, 15, 20% of the people believe in the worst thing you can possibly think about a human being, then when he turns around and said, and also he's a money launderer and he is against the Russian people. It's a lot easier for them to believe that.
Well, there's evidence that he's a money launderer, and there are a lot of images with him with a lot of women, and some of them, you know, who knows what age they are or what country he's in or what the heck he's doing. So you can see it's almost like a pre-buttal, right? Rather than saying after the fact, hey, Hunter's a pedo, you can just go around and say, he can deflate that at the outset. Just say, no, it's nothing. It's all Putin misinformation type of stuff. And so that came in over from the Hunter exchange. And let's see, I've got one more on this one saying they're trying to destroy a presidency. This is also Hunter. They're trying to destroy a presidency. What they're trying to do is kill me, says Hunter.
Do it. Way that I recognizing your resentments and trying to let them go. That's the way that I do it. Way that I do it is, number one, I recognize that none of this is necessarily about me. They are trying to, in their most illegitimate way, but rational way, they're trying to destroy a presidency. And so it's not about me. In their most base way, what they're trying to do is they're trying to kill me, knowing that it will be a pain greater than my father could be able to handle. And so therefore destroying a presidency in that way. And so
they're trying to kill Hunter by indicting him for like 1/10 of the charges that are in here. Okay, the indictment was 56 pages. Garrett told us that this book is over 600 pages. Okay, there's all sorts of other additional crimes like FARA violations that might be pertinent, but they're trying to kill Hunter with another sweetheart charging document.
I realized that it's not about me. And then the second thing that I realized is that these people are just sad, very, very sick people that have most likely just faced traumas in their lives that they've decided that they are going to turn into an evil that they decide that they're going to inflict on the rest of the world.
Wow, it's pretty amazing. So you can see he's trying to talk some fake sobriety stuff there, and it really irritates me as somebody who has a men's group that I attend every week when he's talking about, well, I just live with my resentments, you know, and I just deal with my resentments. And, you know, part of the program is making amends for your misconduct, okay, for the things that you have done. You got to clean up your side of the street. And he's not doing that. He's hiring lawyers who are just helping him deny any responsibility at all and blame everybody else, right? Blame and condemn everybody else other than him. And so that is Hunter Biden and his reaction. We also see the White House not going to have much to say about it. Joe Biden avoiding the question. The whistleblowers responded. The case is going to land in front of this guy, Judge Mark Scarsi, who is the Trump-appointed judge. A little bit about him. You see, it tells us that he was born in Syracuse, New York. He's got computer science background, designed and developed defense applications, then got his JD. Sounds like a sharp dude. Worked at a number of different firms. And then in 2018, President Trump nominated him to serve as the district judge in California. He was confirmed by the Senate and ultimately took office, took the bench, announced that he would be nominated, and we learned that he is going to be presiding over Hunter Biden's tax charges in California. And so be very curious to see how that goes. We'll continue to follow it. Here is what the latest from the docket looks like. The indictment was filed. Leo Weiss submitted a case summary, and we've got the U.S. attorney who is on this also submitting a notice of appearance. Derek Hines signed up on the case. And so, my friends, this is going to be another good one to follow. We saw Hunter got a lot of bravado in the last case in Delaware, and that all started to unravel pretty quickly. And so he's been indicted again. He messed around with the DOJ. They don't like when you do that. And so we will be here continuing to cover this case and more. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you for hitting that like button, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, we will leave it there on the day. Man, we covered some good ground. The 56-pager indictment. And we're very grateful to Garrett Ziegler for his time today. He is a wealth of knowledge, man. He's good. And so before we wrap it up, make sure you are going over to marcopolousa.org to get a copy of his book. It is free there, but you can also buy a hard copy. It's a great conversation starter. Makes a great Christmas gift as well. And so certainly check those out. We are going to hear from you, my friends, and see what you have to say about all of this before we jump on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. Let's see who is joining us in the house on this lovely day before we head on over there to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Do we have some lovely donos? We definitely do. And thank you for those, my friends. Let's see who is here today. We got this one. Hey, this one from G-Gum. G-Gum is here. So, hey, we have a cartoon in the house. We have a comic book. We were talking about bobbleheads yesterday. G-Gum, thank you for this. It says here, something to lighten the spirit. It's Rob in a Watching the Watchers outfit with a spotlight. Says they could be bobbleheads. Oh my gosh, G-Gum. How funny is that? Here's one. Oh, it's a GIF. Here, they could be bobbleheads. Says, I should tell Rob Govea figurines with Watching the Watchers with merch stores. They could be holding a spotlight that light up, and they could be bobbleheads. Man, that is a great idea, G-Gum. Would anybody buy those? I don't know. With my goofy head bouncing around all over the place? I love it. It's a great idea, G-Gum. Thank you for that. And I love it. Okay, so that was from G-Gum Geegum, our amazing meme smith. And we love G-Gum. Thank you for that, G-Gum. NY's here says, I called C-SPAN when they were having Washington Journal this morning. I gave my question. I asked, will President Biden commit to not pardoning his son for the tax and financial crimes? They hung up on me, even though I came under the Republican call-in line. They also seemingly blocked my phone number. We need to keep blasting news networks to hold President Biden accountable. That's incredible, NY. That's over on our locals. So they just said, no, you're done. Don't ask hard questions here. Okay, sorry. Get out of here. Hey, what's up? Voice of the People has a baby. Says, see, we proved it. 2 men can have a baby. Yeah, take that, Republicans. Huh? Who carried it, though? I'm missing my stream tonight for this. Thank you. I don't know, man. We haven't decided on that one. Who's carrying the baby? I mean, sometimes, sometimes it might feel like you are. Maybe you're not. I don't know. So Voice of the People, that is a conversation for another day. But congratulations. It's going to be a soccer player. And we're glad that you've been here for 9 months. And how fun is that? Okay. So, and thanks for missing your stream to hang out with us tonight. Ziegler, man, he's the man, right? He's the man. So we're glad you did it. But hey, my friends, check out Voice of the People. He sounds like he's doing a stream maybe tomorrow, maybe later. We got Magic Stick is here. A memo for 5 months. Magic Stick, thank you. The first month's the hardest. We're over halfway to a baby. I'm looking forward to it. Says news wouldn't be as exciting without you guys. Thanks. Yeah, Garrett is the man. He really does add in a lot of stuff. Don't be hating. Says Garrett. I saw you say the FARA stuff that they seem to be missing right now will implicate Biden more. Bongino said he thinks the FARA stuff will also implicate Obama. Thoughts on that one? Good question on Don't Be Hating. Sorry I didn't get to ask him that, but we did get into a little bit of, we talked about the lobbyists at the outset of the segment. And, Garrett and I could probably spend hours talking about this stuff. Well, we have, but it's a good question. I'm sure he'll be back. I'm sure there will be more. The question is this the end of the line, right? Is this the big one? Are they going to stop here? I think that they probably will. I think Hunter will take a deal. He should have taken the deal in the first place, but he'll take a deal. Maybe not. Is Hunter going to go to trial? I hope so. He deserves it. He deserves his day in court. NY says, so these tax charges are not new to Hunter. Hunter is a lawyer, already had unfiled tax years, 08 to 11, chronicled in his divorce. He already had a get out of jail free card. And so Abby's claim is bogus. The government doesn't settle the second time around. Yeah, he's going to have a tough time on this. And is he going to settle? Would he do that now? He's kind of lifted the options there a bit. Debbie O says, I appreciate all this, but why should we think of the indictment as anything but empty? Does anyone think Hunter's going to jail or anything? Not really. No, I don't think so. Like when Jake Tapper says 17 years, right? That's just Jake Tapper being Jake Tapper. They say that to Trump, 124 years. It's all right, just relax. Okay, Trump's not going to jail. Hunter's probably also not going to jail. But, I'm less interested, honestly, in Hunter's criminality. The guy's a piece of work, no doubt, right? I have no love for the man or the family or what they're doing to the country. But what I'm ultimately interested in is the corruption. That's the real story here. Why did the DOJ treat him differently? Why did the DOJ cover this up? Why did the DOJ bury the story in cahoots with the FBI and the CIA in 2020? If they would have just let us, if Hunter would have just, we would, oh man, the guy's a crackhead. Oh, okay. Joe, his son's a crackhead. Joe's a plagiarist and a liar. And so all of this, is on display for the American people. We all heard it. We all saw it all. Nothing was censored. And Joe won anyways. Okay, well, I guess the American people took it into account and nothing was hidden from us. And the DOJ wasn't rigged and wasn't corrupt and the FBI wasn't covering. And Gary Shapley had nothing to say. And Joseph Ziegler had nothing to say. Then who cares, honestly, about any of this? It's the DOJ that's corrupt. It's the Biden protection racket while the rest of the country is being prosecuted for memes. That's why I get irritated about it. Whether Hunter's a crackhead who sleeps with, hookers and stuff like that, that's his prerogative. It's not activities I condone. But if he's going to come under the judgment of the law, it should be the same as everyone else. That's all we're asking for. And if they're not going to treat him this way, they shouldn't be prosecuting and doing the same thing to other people. Equal justice under the law. That's all. We got Pinochet's helicopter tour says this indictment stops a congressional deposition. Well, I think Hunter will say, now I'm under indictment, so I'm not going to talk, right? Although he was already, I'm already under investigation. Now I'm under investigation for those years. Now you can't ask me about those years. And so it kind of gives him another excuse to not comply with the depo, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see what he does. Wendy K says, sadly, soon they won't be able to deny when everything is laid out for the world to see. This is not just affecting the U.S. Similar things are going on in other countries. We are winning. Yeah. They censored, there's a response, what they did in 2020 and after, in the aftermath, there were responses to that. And guys like Ted Lieu and Dan Goldman, who kept telling us, where's the evidence? Well, he just got indicted again for millions of dollars of unpaid taxes. And where'd that money come from? So I wonder what Goldman's going to be saying about that next week. Wendy K says, I'm speaking it into fruition. I love that. Put it out there. Says, I'm going to win the lottery. Love it. And we're all going to get together and we'll have a conference room so that Rob can do his live so that the people that can't join can still enjoy. I can see it already. So I think Wendy's talking about a live studio audience, man. I'm in for it. I'm in for it. And then we could also, we have some other plans, I think, for a sovereign yacht. And I think we have an island plan. So I think we're going to buy an island. We need at least a sovereignty cruise ship to take us from America to our sovereign island, where we'll have our sovereign hall and a giant conference room where we can live in peace from corrupt governments. Oh my goodness, I'm getting excited. Wendy, stop it. All right, so that is from Wendy. We got NY says, yes, thanks for making the point. This was a campaign donation in kind to Biden. NY says, every dollar I earn, I earn with work. I pay 40% in taxes to state and federal. I have no sympathy for these crooks. Totally, man. Totally. It is, and he knows why he's doing it because his dad is a senator. His dad was the vice president. His dad is going to be president, right? Again. So he just gets away with it because he's a powerful person. Jason B says, how hard will it be to prove the money that Hunter got was for official favors from Joe? We can all see what it was, but proving it may be harder. To prove that the money Hunter got was for official favors from Joe. Well, I guess it depends. Like, do you need that? Like, what type of action do you need? Like, do you need for what kind of official favor, I guess is what I'm asking, Jason. Because just like Joe had dinner with them, like Joe showed up to them and maybe he made phone calls or stuff. Like, are you looking for a phone call? Are you looking for like a policy change? What specifically are you looking for? I guess is what I would ask. I mean, I think Joe Biden has already lied to us and already broken the standards. He's taken money that we know is backtraced to China through Hunter's companies, and it's landed literally in his bank account. So he's gotten money from Hunter's business. He told us that that's not true. He lied to us about that during the campaign. No, nothing. He got literal money from Owasco. So like, the financial transactions are there if you're looking for, and he's, like, for example, he sent a letter to Devin Harcher, thank you for helping with Hunter and stuff like that. So if you want, I don't think you're going to see like Joe Biden declared war on Taiwan or something like in favor of China. Like, I don't think you're going to see anything like that. These are small marginal things. And I think there's enough there to charge him. If this was or Trump, they would have charged him already. But I get your point, Jason. Yeah, it'd be nice to see, some of those emails, those alias emails, maybe in those 62,000 emails that we're going to see, maybe there'll be something in there. Why did he have all the emails that were in undercover pseudonyms? Trevelyan Gale is in the house. Says, Rob, you and Garrett remind me of going to the cinema in 1976 to watch All the President's Men, which I've not seen that movie, Trevelyan Gale. I'm sure it was a great film. And Garrett, is probably the protagonist in that film because he's a amazing dude. Knox Bierman says, TGIF all. Says, Hunter is just like most criminal defendants, but on mega crack-fueled steroids. My clients couldn't even imagine this in their wildest dreams. You're right. You're right about all of this. And Knox, I'm kind of curious what your take is. Do you think Hunter should have taken that plea deal at the outset too? I think he would have avoided all this personally. He would have just deferred to the diversion agreement. The diversion agreement would have been signed by the probation officer. It would have been entered, and he could say he's immune. B.H. Williams says, is it just me, or does this read like an actual crime narrative, compared to any of the Trump indictments? This reads very different to me. Yeah, it's a different set of circumstances. Trump's crimes were speech crimes, right? He was just talking, and they said that was a criminal conspiracy. Essentially, that's the charge. This is like emails, bank records, it's all there on display in 56 pages. Good to see you, Words. I'm sorry, that was B.H. Williams. This is Words. Words mean things. Says, it came today. Guess what Little Miss Words is going to be doing this weekend? And guess whose book this is, my friends? You know who it is. It's Vientikis. That's his book. You can get it at Barnes & Nobles. It's called Chronicles of the Last Enchantress. It's book 1 called Identity from our friend Vientikis Prime. Get your copy at Barnes & Nobles. V can write some books. I have a copy of another book on electricity back there. Knox says they stopped recording grand jury proceedings here in Texas after the, quote, pick-a-pal scheme was discovered, and like 10 cases were overturned on appeal. They still cheat We just can't find out. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. And Knox is a lawyer in Texas. So that is crazy. Yeah, and I always have a problem with that. Like, transcripts are not good. Okay. I had a judge one time help a cop out on, I think it was a civil traffic case. Yeah. And she didn't do it in the transcript. She rubbed her eye like this when the cop, I'll explain this real quickly. In civil traffic cases, one of the ways that you can beat a civil traffic ticket in some jurisdictions is when the cop misses a key element of the offense. So, for example, if you're caught speeding 12 miles per hour in whatever zone you're in or whatever, and you schedule a hearing in Arizona, they take you to a civil traffic hearing. It's a miniature trial. Cop shows up, attorney shows up, client can show up. Both sides give opening statements and testimony. You can present evidence and so on. If the cop testifies and they miss something, so a common acronym you'll hear in the law is called LOVID, LOVID, location, elements of the offense for O, venue, identity, and date and time. Okay, this is how you beat a traffic ticket. And if the cop misses one of those elements, like if they don't say the location of the offense, if they don't say the date and time, you have a jurisdictional problem. If they don't identify the person, which is where the judge rubbed her eye, then they fail. So I was in the civil traffic hearing one time, and the cop is going through his testimony, and he missed identity. Like, he went through this whole spiel, said everything, but he didn't say anything about my client. Like, he's talking, this person was speeding and blah, blah, blah. But he missed identity because cops get nervous when you're there, and they miss stuff all the time. So he didn't. So he said speeding in this location. He got the location. He got the elements of the offense. He got the court, the venue. He got the date and time. He got everything. Got the color. Got the speed. Calibrated. Blah, blah, blah. But he missed the identity. He didn't say my client's name at all. He was like, well, didn't say identified her. Didn't say this or whatever. So we're sitting there. I'm like, oh man, this case is in the bag. And I look up, and the judge is going like this in the courtroom, like this. And the cop looks at her and he goes, oh, and I forgot to mention, her name was so-and-so, and I identified her by her name in this jurisdiction. And I just looked at her, right? I couldn't say, what was I going to say? I just looked at her like this. I know what you did. I just know what you did. And nothing happened. And he caught it, and there's nothing you can do about it. So basically, that is the grand jury, right? That was not in the transcripts. Okay. If that was in the transcript, nobody would have seen that. But this judge is like rubbing her eye. I'm like, okay, judge, like, you're just rubbing your eye. Like, objection to that. There's no cameras. It's all audio recorded. So, what are you going to say? I'm just rubbing my eye. It's what it is. So it was a rigged court anyways. That was one of the worst courts that I've ever operated in. And that judge is no longer on the bench anymore. Thankfully, we fought hard on that court. But that's the type of thing. Knox, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, the transcripts don't capture it all. All right. So a little bit of a tangent there, but it's a great point. You can't see what they're doing. And these gestures and stuff are all disgusting. All right, Voice of the People is here, says, I'm becoming more and more convinced that Hunter was this sloppy, not because of his habits, but because he wanted to get caught and bring his father down. Man, that is some very deep psychological Freudian analysis there, Voice. You might be right about that. NY says, Hunter is from DC royalty. His dad told him he was in the clear. He doesn't want to do a day in jail or pay one dime. His father is the president. That's why he walked away from that sweetheart deal. Says, Rubos are here at RubosSaltShop.com. Says, Biden is in California? Very curiouser and curiouser. We wonder if Biden is going to Denise George, David Weiss. Denise George was the U.S. attorney in the U.S. Virgin Islands who filed a lawsuit against J.P. Morgan Chase for financing Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. Biden unexpectedly vacationed to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Denise George was fired shortly thereafter. Wow, Rubos. That is a good connection. Yeah, it's very curious. I wonder if this campaign this stop was already scheduled, or if they coordinated the drop. Very convenient. And it was a Thursday drop. It wasn't a Friday drop. I noticed that as well. The Rubos are in the house. Great to have you, the Rubos. Let's see, who else do we have here? NY says, Garrett Ziegler, I am praying for your health and good soul. I am worried for you. Truthfully, the country owes you for your work. Well, We know where to support him. We're praying for him. Garrett's a fighter, man. He's got some good light energy around him. I think he's got some protection over him, and we're going to continue to send him good energy and love his way. Thank you, NY, for also doing the same. And again, you can support him at marcopolousa.org or fightbiden.org. Fightbiden.org is where you can make some donos to their organization because they're supported. It's a nonprofit. They're supported by us. So that is a good comment, NY. Says, Hunter is just the beginning. AG Merrick Garland is going to go down for lying to Congress, and they're going to go after his law license, just like Bill Clinton. We'll see. I don't know about that. We'll see. We got Knox says, Stalin didn't have computers. The Nazis did have that IBM system. Well, it's fun. It's interesting to hear Hunter come out and try to wax poetic about American tyranny in America. And did you hear that clip? He said, this is, it might not be Russian disinfo, but it could be. It's very similar. Like, what does that have to do with anything? It's not. It's true. Knox in the house. NY says, Bidenomics, it's not about him not paying taxes on millions of dollars for seemingly nothing. It's all about Trump and the Russians. And we got Knox is here, says, I'll throw in for the island. Hey, thanks, Knox. It's going to be a clean island, okay? Island has a bad name right now, but we're not doing that. We're getting a cruise ship, not an airplane for the reason. We got K Bean in the house. What's up, K Bean? Thanks for bringing in new members, K Bean, bringing in Glenn C, James P, Paul P, Cheryl B, and Bourne coming in courtesy of K Bean. And our friends on YouTube, we're going to have a very, very short after party today because we were running very long, but grab the Telegram link, scroll down on YouTube to the members only section on the community post and grab the Telegram link so we can see you there on Telegram. Glenn is here. What's up, Glenn? Glenn is bringing in membos. Sweet Tea Tat, Nuclear, Catania Mama Italia, Cheryl P, Jop L, Zach G, Bullwinkle's Sprinkles is here, Stina M, Keister Bunny, and Chris Sawyer in the house. Knox says, oh yeah, he should have taken the plea. Like, would it mess with his job or his ability to rent an apartment like my guys? I got my book today too. Woo, V's books are going out to everybody. Amazing. So V is selling some books here, man. Love that. And you can get your copy at Barnes & Noble. And V is sharing the link, I think. NY says, I would remind everyone, we saw with our own eyes that in 1 year, Hunter took out $700,000 in cash. It's pretty obvious that the cash went in part to the big guy. The few checks to Joe Biden are small pickings. The drug addict story seems to be a convenient cover for the amount of cash removed. Joe Biden needs to be audited for cash payments and deposits. Crash says, Rob, the old saying is, make friends before you make enemies. Trump failed on the front end. Hunter and Joe made plenty of friends. Plenty of friends from Crash. K Bean says, Vientica's book is 9 inches, classy cover, not busy or cartoonish, looks good on a bookshelf. It's great for teens and up. From K Bean. It is very classy. And I think even that cover came from Jigam Gigam. Jigam is a member on Locals. So we're building the parallel economy and already publishing books here, my friends. Incredible. So get V's book and support the work there. V says, there also must be an endless supply of bacon on this island or I'm not going. Well, V, you're in charge of that. We'll cordon off a few acres for the bacon plants. We'll have fields of bacon plants and we'll just harvest them every day. It's going to be beautiful. All right. So that, my friends, is amazing. Thank you so much for sending those in over on the Locals, on the Rumbles, and elsewhere. We're going to say hello to our friends on X before we have a very short after party because we are running out of time. And so let's see who is joining us on the X platform. If I can navigate to the feed. We got 50 viewers. Oh my goodness. This is an all-time record, man. I think that is the highest we've ever seen it. 50 viewers. Hello, my X friends. It's great to see you. We're glad that you are here and joining us. I don't know what happened, but Danny's here. Fred's here. Hey, Fred's got the book. Fred's here, says, we love the new book. I love this new book. It's a great book. Even the dog likes it. His name is Johnny. And he used to hang out with the Pope and stuff like that. Ryan here says, hey, about time Hunty gets what's coming. TJ King is here. We got Alan's here, Nuke Ultra, Jackie Vetter is here, and Pamela Blutt all in the house. And so shout out to our friends on the X. Great to see everybody over there. We're up to 70 viewers. What the heck is happening? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's good to see everybody. It's great. Elon's platform. Elon might even be joining us. I've never seen anything like that here. So shout out to Elon, who is clearly here. What's up, Elon? Doing great work out there. Keep up the great work. Thanks, my friends, for following us on the X. We want to say shout out to our mods and our meme smiths over on the day. Thank you to Vienticus Prime, K-Bean. We got Just Cause in the house, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu's here, Beyond the Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, along with our meme smiths, Nathan, NA10, Jigum Gigum, and Sleepy Dog Lee, all in the house. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to leave it there. We will be back on Monday. Members will be back tomorrow for our members only stream. Become a member or we'll see you on Locals. But if we don't see you there, we will be back here on Monday to get into it all again. And I hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. We had 5 more membos come in, courtesy of Glenn Croy, Pinochet's Helicopter Tours, True American, Hope Arising, Wheezy Bob, Mars Soul, all coming in, along with Linda Hunter, a membo for 3 months, saying Merry Christmas, we are us. Linda, thanks for being a membo. Great to have you. Now that, my friends, is it for us on the day. So make it a great weekend. Get out there, spend some time with friends or family, unplug for a bit, and we'll see you right back here on Monday. Make it a great weekend, my friends. Bye-bye.